Hey, it is Monday night in East Lansing. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Welcome to Spartan Mag Live. Come on in, gather around. Sorry, once again, I'm late. I was putting together some stuff, trying to get some video together of Michigan State's most recent football commitment, Eddie Pleasant. We'll be looking at him a little bit later, talking about a lot of things going on with Michigan State sports, Michigan State football, a lot of potential energy in terms of Michigan State news. Nothing really breaking tonight thus far, but potential for football commitments, potential for, down the road, Michigan State, of course, looking for a new hockey coach. Tom Izzo looking for a new assistant basketball coach. Rumors and rumblings about Michigan State transfer portal, good and bad. Nothing breaking right now. I've got my phone on. Recording on Monday night right now. I've got some feelers out there trying to get some information, but things a little bit not quiet in East Lansing, but potential energy, potential news. Some good, some anxiety-ridden. But it's April, and we are beginning the out-of-season, as head coach Mel Tucker calls it, out-of-season. Not the off-season, the out-of-season. There's never an off-season anymore. They'll be going right back to work real soon. Michigan State football, Spartans. Behind me, a picture of the spring game, spring scrimmage, what it looked like on Saturday at Spartan Stadium. Not a scrimmage, not a game. A little bit of scrimmaging, mostly a practice. Paul Konradek and I talked about it in the VCast from the stadium down to the grass level. You can find that over at SpartanMag.com. If you're not a subscriber to SpartanMag.com, go over there and check it out. Become a subscriber, become a magger. You will like it. If you're here and you've been watching this for a minute and a half, then you're potential Spartan Mag material. Get over there, become a subscriber. In the meantime, give us a thumbs up right here. Subscribe to this channel. We're getting near 6,000 subscribers here on the Spartan Mag YouTube channel. We appreciate every one of them. Appreciate you guys that come in and check us out at Spartan Mag Live on a regular basis. Here in East Lansing today, got to tell you, it snowed, and it snowed all day. Had a little bit of accumulation around noon. The accumulation has subsided. Air temperature around 37 degrees. Our cruising altitude tonight here in Spartan Mag Live is going to be about 20,000 feet, talking about Michigan State sports from a 20,000 feet overview, but sometimes down to ground level, because I've got boots on the ground here in East Lansing. I am your trustworthy, I hope, credible, I hope, correspondent, your friendly correspondent from here in East Lansing, Michigan, talking about Michigan State football, basketball, and other things that come up. Snowed a little bit today, so had some cancellations and some other things that we were planning to do from a family standpoint, sports-wise, so that's canceled because of the snow. So right here, Spartan Mag Live, kicking it off tonight. Anytime we got a chance to do it, we're going to do it. Weekly, pretty much is how we've done this in the past. Haven't had it weekly in the last 2 or 3 weeks because of some family reasons. No bad reasons, just have to have some other priorities going on. But I've been saying it for a couple of years now. Would like to get this going, maybe 25 minutes, 3 times a week as we get into the out-of-season category for Michigan State fans. Appreciate everybody coming in. What we're going to do is we have some questions that were posted over at the Underground Bunker message board. The Underground message board is the premium forum at SpartanMag.com. A lot of astute Michigan State fans over there taking time to read it every day and post and contribute. A lot of lurkers. We appreciate the lurkers. The content's pretty good over there. And earlier today, I invited Spartan Maggers at SpartanMag.com to post at the Underground Bunker message board any questions they have for the show tonight. We will be fielding those questions. Also, as we normally do, we will get over to the comments area, and we will do that. Keith Tunstall also saying, will you ever have a set schedule? Pick a date and time so we Spartan fans will be ready for your show. I appreciate that. Appreciate your commitment. Appreciate your enthusiasm, Keith. Basically, I thought I was going to be coaching baseball today, but it got snowed out, high school baseball. So snowed out, so we're here. So the game's moved to tomorrow. Was thinking about doing this tomorrow. Last year, I was head coach of some JV baseball. I didn't really reveal that until the season was over, but we had Spartan Mag Live on the shelf on the back burner for most of the spring. We were not able to get to it at that point, but it's a short window in my life, and I'm doing some of those things. But when we get a chance, we are doing this. And, yeah, you're right. It'd be good to have it on a set schedule, and maybe as we get into the out-of-season, we can get to more of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of thing. That's what I'm shooting for, at least a Tuesday, Thursday, with some breaking news, impromptu afternoon Spartan Mag Lives intermingled in there. That's what we hope to do. But it's a busy time. Being busy is not a bad thing. And I want to do it, and some of you guys want us to have us do it on a more regular basis, and we are aiming for that. So anyway, the mailbag version of the program coming up. We'll have some questions there. I wanted to have Big Movie Ron Armstrong here. He's unable to do it. He has some family obligations tonight. I spoke with him a little bit since the weekend. He was at the spring scrimmage. He has some thoughts about that, and we will get him in a future Spartan Mag Live real soon. Thought about having Paul Konadike here, but he's trying to track down Xavier Booker. I'm not sure if Xavier's going to be available for interviews. Xavier Booker, 6'10", center, Indianapolis Cathedral High School. Kind of a top 50 recruit, 6'10", official visit to Michigan State this past weekend. Trying to get some information on that one. Talked to Jason Killip, the recruiting anchor for SpartanMag.com, doing a real good job covering what took place this past weekend in terms of Michigan State football recruiting. He is still working on that right now and attempting to get in touch with some recruits that visited this past weekend right now. So we can't have Jason on right now. He's working. Konadike, he's working. Big Movie, family obligations. We will be opening the phone lines. We'll take some questions from the masses if you have any questions. Sometimes we open the phone line and we get some calls. Sometimes we don't. We'll be giving that a shot in a moment. First, we will go to the mailbag. Question number 1. Tony from Northville, Michigan says, now that the spring game is behind us, who are some of the underclassmen that are heading into the summer with positive momentum? Good, broad-based question there. Just off the top of my head, I threw a list together. Starting on offense, Davion Prim, redshirt freshman. He didn't really show out in the spring scrimmage as much. In the scrimmage, I think there were only maybe 20 snaps of live tackle scrimmaging, and he may have had 2 or 3 carries in those. I'm still going over the scrimmage. We took some video, and of course, Big Ten Network showed some of it, but not all of it. Yesterday, as we record this, was Easter. I was busy all day on Easter, so I didn't get a chance to go over some of my own video, and I look forward to doing that and taking a closer look at some of the players, Davion Prim being one of them. Even though the reps were limited with Prim and some of the other guys, I want to get as much information as I can. We're able to watch some practice during the spring, but not much, and 0 scrimmaging. So any chance we can get a repetition of 11 on 11, I want to look at all 22 players and try to get any information I can. I've gone through about 5 plays so far. Again, it's not like a usual spring game when you might have, 50 or 60 snaps. Not as many, but I want to get as much as I can, and I'll be arriving with some more opinions from the scrimmaging, maybe next week or later in the week if we get another chance. Might be doing it again tomorrow on Tuesday. I don't know. Get snowed out again for baseball tomorrow. Anyway, underclassmen that have momentum. Keon Coleman, the wide receiver from Louisiana, sophomore. No surprise there. Came to Michigan State with a lot of fanfare at 6'4", a different type of athlete. You've heard a lot about him. He played basketball for Michigan State for half the season this year. Only 7 catches last year, but you can see as a true freshman, that's nothing to sneeze at, but you can see the ability, and he's a very focused young man, physically sturdy. The coaches have trouble not raving about him. They try to keep the compliments grounded a little bit. In the spring game, in terms of 11-on-11 scrimmaging, there were not a lot of explosive offensive plays. Peyton Thorne looked to Keon Coleman in the 2-minute drill late in the game. I think it was cover 2, and the cover 2 hole to the right sideline didn't quite hook up with him over there, but he was looking for him. Keon Coleman's a talent on the rise. So if you're asking me for underclassmen on the rise, I got Prim just because of all the things we heard about him during the spring, not only from the coaches, what they told us, some other people that I've got contact with also were impressed with Prim. Again, didn't see a lot of indications of that on Saturday, but I count him as a player on the rise. And he's done a great job getting into that running back rotation and getting into the competition to be part of that rotation. Jared Broussard is going to be coming in from Colorado here in a few weeks. We saw Jalen Berger, the transfer from Wisconsin, get some carries on Saturday. You've seen him play for the Badgers in the past. So probably going to have a 3-man rotation there, running back. Ephraim Reed, the new running backs coach, speaking highly of Elijah Collins. We didn't ask him about Jordan Simmons, but Simmons got some play on Saturday also. Is there room for all of them? No, there just isn't. You don't want to get caught like like Iowa did a few years ago when they had a couple of scholarship running backs that both got hurt and they've got walk-ons in there. Michigan State right now does not have that problem, but today entering the portal, Donovan Eaglin, no surprise there. A young man out of Texas that's got some ability, and I think he can transfer somewhere if he finds the right place. I think he's going to make an impact somewhere at the mid-major level. I've not heard who's interested in him, but just I would say like that Arkansas State level and maybe up to an SMU type of level. I think you could find a nice fit. Maybe not SMU. I'm not familiar with their roster, and they've had some good players over the years, so it's hard to say there. But Eaglin, a good player. It's just too crowded. You got Broussard coming in, Berger, then you have Collins and Simmons, and now Prim. 5 is a crowd. That's a crowd for sure. But Prim throwing his hat into the ring, and he's on the rise. Others, offensive line. I might have said Gino Vandemark, the true freshman from New Jersey at right guard, was having a pretty good spring. Went down with kind of a minor injury, sidelined for the spring scrimmage. Didn't get a chance to look at him, but I'd put him in there. Brandon Baldwin, the junior college transfer, left tackle. Putting him at left tackle, that's an important position, important role. I'm not saying he's ready for that yet, but big guy at about 6'7", moves well. Saw him pull on some run plays. He can cover some ground. Needs to get stronger like a lot of young offensive linemen do. I know he's a junior college transfer, so he's not as young as most first-year players. But, did not play last fall, redshirted or whatever you want to call it, didn't get on the field. The year before that was COVID year. He was in junior college. They didn't have a season. So a lot to learn there, but a lot to work with. And when he trots out as the first-string left tackle in the spring scrimmage, that's some responsibility. I know they were short on offensive linemen, so someone had to go out there. He got the call on that. I'm not saying he's ready for it, but he's making progress. And I'd like to maybe check in with Chris Kapilovic here during the out-of-season and ask him for his overall thoughts now that spring is over on some of those guys. At tight end, Malik Carr would have been a guy, and he still is. We didn't see him on Saturday. Not sure why he didn't play, but he was available for interviews a week and a half ago. And everybody knows he's a talented guy, played some basketball this year, has some ability to get downfield and go up high with some strength. Needs to improve his blocking. I was looking forward to watching him in the scrimmage to see if he had shown any progress in blocking, but we didn't see him. Didn't play. That was disappointing. But I've got to put him on the list of young players on the rise. At the quarterback position, I'll go with Caton Hauser. Mid-year enrollee, 4-star. A lot of arm talent, a lot of moxie. Just getting started at Michigan State. Hearing pretty good things about him. Got some work done this spring. I'll put him as the underclassman on the rise at that position. On the defensive line, started last year, Simeon Barrow, a sophomore. No news there. Someone you've heard of if you're a Michigan State fan, but Simeon Barrow. Good last year, good future. Derek Harmon, sophomore, defensive tackle, big fella out of Detroit. Got on the field a little bit last fall. Now he's had a winter of conditioning, and he's looking a little bit quicker. No shortage of size and strength with him. He's only going to get stronger. Derek Harmon was a handful to block on Saturday. Nice future coming for that guy. Also in the defensive backfield, mid-year enrollee, Jaden Mangum. He's a teenager, supposed to be in high school right now. A little bit narrow, a little bit thin. Hey, he's a teenager. What are you going to do? But he runs around real well, has a feel, and he's impressed his teammates. He basically repped as a second-string safety on Saturday. I think he's going to compete for some playing time there. You have Xavier Henderson starting safety coming back, a lot of experience. Angelo Gross, a lot of experience. Mangum's going to be knocking on the door there. Got to make sure that there's not a durability problem. He's never had that he's never had a durability problem before, but he's a thin teenager. But I think he's right on schedule to be an early schedule guy. Other corners, Charles Brantley last year played early, was lost for the remainder of the season in the Purdue game. Got on the field Saturday in the scrimmage wearing a red jersey. Surprised me a little bit. The red jersey usually indicates no contact, but he was on the field a little bit. I can't remember if he was on the field for 11 on 11 or just individual drills. But don't forget about him. I know he started a game, but he's an underclassman on the rise. Ade Willie is a mid-year enrollee from Florida. and he was part of the festivities this spring, and one to keep an eye on there. Question number 2, who surprised you the most during the spring scrimmage, positively or negatively? Positively, I'm still looking at it. Still looking at things. Interesting that Fincher played some right guard and some center. It's interesting how they flip-flopped Fincher and Samac there. Samac began the scrimmage as the first-string center. Dallas Fincher, a junior from Grand Rapids, began the scrimmage as a right guard. I don't think Fincher is right now. I don't think he's a candidate to start, but they got him. He was able to receive some experience. He's a redshirt sophomore, actually, junior academically, but Dallas Fincher from Kentwood, East Kentwood. A lot of those young offensive linemen getting a lot of reps, some good, some not so good, learning on the fly. But interesting that they had Fincher at guard, and then later on they repped them with Fincher at center and Samac at guard. What that does is that creates some flexibility. It helps manufacture some depth. Bring in Brian Green, the transfer from Washington State. Get him into the mix. He can play some center and some guard. What that's setting the stage for is competition when you get into the fall. They'll start their best center, whoever that is. Might be Samac, might be Green, might be Fincher. Probably Samac at this point, right? So then if he gets that job, who's the guard? Green is probably going to have a shot at that. You got Matt Carrick coming back from a knee injury, didn't get on the field this spring. A guy that's been a functional, dependable guy in the past that I think still has some good football ahead of him as a sixth-year senior. I thought he was playing pretty well last year behind Jarvis before he's lost to an injury. I thought Carrick was better last fall than he was the year before as a starter. So Carrick's still around. J.D. Duplain, they put him on ice a little bit this spring. He'll be coming back at left guard. So you got some guards there to choose from. But Fincher now is into that mix along with Green. So Fincher, I'm going to put him as a guy that surprised. I'm not going to say surprised, but he was solid in that scrimmage. I would say Derek Harmon. We knew that, I mentioned him earlier, we knew that he was pretty solid last year as a true freshman in the fall. I think he's taking it up a notch. Ma'a Nateote, there was one play where he took on a blocker and did it with some real good shock, really firm. Correct shouldered the guy in one arm and just kind of fended it off. He just looked more physically able. He's had a good winter in the weight room, it looks like. Others, Amir Speed was everything you'd expect him to be. In terms of negatives, I would just say some guys that were not on the field. Jarrett Horst, left tackle last year, left the team. They talked about some ailments there. Came back. I'm just really not sure how reliable he can be at left tackle. It would have been really good for him to come back and just reassert himself as a first-string left tackle this spring. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes there, but that did not take place. Nothing against the young man. He's doing what he can and everything, but a little bit of a disappointment. When you hear he was coming back, that seemed like good news, but I'm not saying anything bad has happened since then, but in terms of a reliability situation, that's still a question mark. And with that being the case, who do you have in the program that are left tackles? That's where Brandon Baldwin becomes very interesting and very important. Spencer Brown started in right tackle in the Peach Bowl, did pretty well. In the spring game, I've not watched him on every snap, but there was one play where I think Brandon Wright beat him and Chris Bogle beat him. He was not undefeated in the scrimmage. He was pretty much undefeated in the Peach Bowl against a very good Pittsburgh pass rush. And he faced a lot of those guys, including Baldonado, who was a real good second-team All-ACC type of pass rusher. But Spencer Brown, I thought, was better in the Peach Bowl maybe than he was in this game. But he has proved that he can play some football at a high level. They're going to need that every single Saturday this fall. Will it be at right tackle, or does he become a candidate at left tackle? I'm not sure. But, Jarrett Horst and the whole left tackle situation, if you're asking me for negative surprises in the spring, that's kind of in there. I mentioned it last week on SpartanMag Live, the place kicker situation. And I asked Mel Tucker about it last week, and he said, well, it'll be a good competitive situation in the fall. If he thought it was a problem, I'm not sure if he would tell us or not. But you've got Jack Stone coming in as a true freshman. That always, Michigan State's had some good success with some freshman kickers over the years. freshman kickers that have become 4-year starters. Matt Coughlin, the most recent of which, recently exhausted his eligibility. He's done. So Michigan State's got an opening there. Steven Rusnak, walk-on from Clarkston, got some playing time last year when Coughlin became injured, and Rusnak struggled. You guys all saw it. Dude, he did what he could, but toward the end, they just couldn't trot him out there to kick. Tucker said that Rusty, as he calls him, has improved, and he did well this spring, and it's going to be a competitive situation, he says. But I kind of think it's a little bit of a whistling to the graveyard type situation where you're not really sure what's going on, to use an old Bill Miller term. Going to be relying on Jack Stone. That would have been one freshman that Michigan State really could have benefited from having him on campus for spring practice. And even last year for his high school team, he handled kickoff duties, but from what I understand, they had somebody else doing the place kicking. I'm not really sure how that works or why that was. So, I mean, could they look to the portal possibly for a kicker? I've not heard that. But the place kicking situation quietly has me a little bit nervous. For them, not for myself. I'm calm. Offensive line in general, they got caught this spring a little bit with a shortage of walk-ons. That's when you need your walk-ons. You need your Mike Bacons, your Van Opstals, those guys to provide some reps in the spring. They didn't have that this year, so shortage of offensive linemen. They've got 4 scholarship offensive linemen coming in, plus 1 from the portal, maybe another from the portal. And, some guys are on the shelf due to health situations. So they only had 7 or 8, 9 working offensive linemen in practice, and when that's the case, you can't really run a 2 deep, and you can't service your defense as well when that's a situation. So as they get their roster together, these are some of the things that happen. So you're asking me for disappointments. It's hard to be disappointed and to think about individual disappointments. Quarterbacks all competed well. Wide receivers competed well. Tight ends, Jack Nickel, the true freshman from Georgia, got on the field, made a catch. He looked like a tight end. He didn't, in recent years, there's been the kid from Texas, I forgot his name already, Cam Allen. I mean, he showed up, and you're like, that guy's at least a year away. And he never got his body to be a bona fide Big Ten level tight end. Trenton Gillison had a ways to go. The other kid from Cincinnati, Moeller, the 4-star. That kid, the 4-star, I forget his name already, the split end from Moeller was a 4-star, but at Moeller, he was a split end. He was not a tight end. Came to Michigan State, attached to the line, had to learn to block, had a season-ending injury as a senior, had some good hands and so forth, but it was going to take him a while to become a blocker. This guy, Nickel, I'll have to go back. I'm still looking at it. I want to see what he looks like when he blocks out there. I've not seen that. But he didn't look like somebody... I didn't get the Cam Allen feeling with him, with Nickel. Meaning that he wasn't ready. He looks like I'm not saying he's ready like right now if they had to play Wisconsin, but he looks to me like ahead of schedule. A guy coming in at mid-semester. All right, I am going to get over here to the questions. Let's see. I got to tweet. What I need to do is I need to tweet. I'm gonna. So stay with me for a minute. I'm gonna find us. I would have had this little part done earlier, but as you know, I came in here a few minutes late, so I didn't have this part of it coming in and ready to go mid-semester. All right, I am going to. There's that. I'm going to send out a tweet right now inviting other people to come check us out and join the fun. We are live via SpartanMag Live. How about we say we're on the air? Join us here. That's what I typed. That's where it is. And it's got this crazy screenshot of me, which is kind of embarrassing, but we go with what we got, right? All right. So question number 3 from the mailbag. MSU Polo from Rockford, Michigan says, thanks for getting this going again, Jim. Is the offensive line by far the biggest concern for you heading into the season? Obviously, there were several starting caliber guys out on Saturday, but even those guys still have some question marks, and experienced depth is scarce. Thanks. You're asking me if that's by far the biggest concern. I just mentioned the place kicker situation. Maybe Jack Stone comes in and he's ice. I don't know. But yeah, offensive line. There, like I said today, I was on the Huge Show, I think, today, and I mentioned this on the VCast last week. Michigan State has... they've got some proven commodities individually on the offensive line. That includes Jarrett Horst. I think he's a proven player. Nick Samac, he's never won the starting job, but I think he should be ready for it. I didn't think he played well. I didn't think he played great in the bowl game. I'll go back and look at the scrimmage to see how he did against Barrow and Slade. I don't think Barrow and Slade were in supreme tail kicking mode or anything, but I want to take a look at Samac again. He should be ready. Carrick has played in the past. I don't know what he'll look like coming back from the knee injury, but he's been a serviceable player in the past. And like I said earlier, if he comes back in good shape, I think he's capable of playing his best football as a sixth-year senior. J.D. Duplain has been a good serviceable player. Can he take it up a notch and vie for all Big Ten status? I'm not sure, but he's functional. Right tackle, Spencer Brown, he's done it in the past for one game in the bowl game. You take all five of those guys at their best, glue them together, you've got the makings of potentially a good, solid, functional offensive line. It's going to take a lot of work, especially since they didn't get any work together during the spring season. That's bad luck. Kapilovic is an excellent offensive line coach. He's pretty good with a glue gun. So he's going to glue those guys together, get the nail gun out a little bit, and they've got it. He'll give them a chance to get the best out of that group. Brian Green coming in, we'll have to wait and see what he develops into. So yeah, it's a concern. There's a lot of work to do when they get to August camp. From the word go, those guys are going to need to come together quickly. Yes, those are the two biggest question marks in my opinion. More so than the defensive backfield or the pass defense, which last year gave up a lot of numbers, but I think these two areas are more of a concern. I think that area is heading in the right direction. Question number 2, Ethan from Birmingham, Michigan, says, how serious of a shot does Michigan State have with David Hicks and Reuben Owens? David Hicks, number 2 player in the country, number 2 recruit in the country from Texas. Reuben Owens, the number 1 running back in the country from Texas. Those guys visited Michigan State this past weekend for the spring game. Michigan State did really well to get those guys on campus. Hicks, the best defensive lineman in the country, he's worked with Brandon Jordan, Michigan State's new pass rush specialist. That's how Michigan State got him on campus. There's some intrigue out there about Mel Tucker. He's opened a lot of eyes out there. He's excited a lot of people. People want to come in and meet him and see what he's all about. They see that Michigan State went 11-2 last year, finished number 9 in the country, won the Peach Bowl. Pretty good season. Pretty good. Great season for what they had to work with. So Mel Tucker's raised some eyebrows out there. The hiring of Brandon Jordan gives some juice. So what's the result? The best defensive line prospect in the country from Texas came up here and checked it out. Sounds like there's a really good chance he will take an official visit to Michigan State this summer. He told Jason Killip, SpartanMag's recruiting anchor, that he plans to take 2 official visits this summer and then 3 in the fall. So that one's going to go a ways. It's going to be a long, circuitous route to try to get him. And Texas A&M recruited really well last year, number 1 class in the country, right down there in Texas. And A&M and Texas, in the name, image, and likeness era, they're operating with a full deck. And yeah, it's going to be hard to beat those guys. But Michigan State's getting in on some of those, big major recruiting battles. So you're asking me how realistic? Michigan State's still got to be considered not the favorite, but he's been on campus once, official visit. Hey, if he just decides he feels good about it and likes it, then all Michigan State might need to do is match the NIL promises. And it's hard you can't really recruit to the NIL, but you know what's going on. So Michigan State's going to have some capabilities there. I don't think anyone's going to outspend A&M in Texas. But are they going to be trotting out that money for everybody? Maybe that kid, maybe so. So I tell you what, Polo, that's Ethan from Birmingham. You're learning as I'm learning. I never would have thought Michigan State would bring in, 12 4 stars, what they had last weekend, plus a 5-star or 2. That's never happened in the past. So I don't want to violate Nick Saban's golden rule and put self-imposed limitations on the program. I'm just going to sit back and watch because I've already seen things I've never seen before in terms of who they're going after and who they're drawing onto campus. And they're still sharpening up that operation too. It's going to get sharper. So I'm going to say serious shot. Anytime you get an official visit, you got a serious shot. Not a favorite though. But, what if Jimbo Fisher goes 7-5 this year at A&M and he gets on the hot seat? That could happen. I don't think 7-5 would put him on the hot seat, but things can happen fast. Question number, I don't know. I'm going to lose track of questions here because I didn't take all the. Usually, I take all the questions that are posted and I get a feel for them and think about what my answer would be and edit them down and I number them. Didn't get a chance to do that because we were in a hurry a moment ago, right? All right. Jim says the linebacker. He says, Jim, this is Gordy from Albany, Georgia. Thanks for watching in Georgia, Gordy. We appreciate it. He says, Jim, the linebacker room is loaded. Do you see Coach Mel Tucker going to a 3-3-5 with Brule, Windman, and Halliday? Snow is good. Or he says, Darius Snow is too good not to be in the starting 11. I think Michigan State's got 4 solid linebackers right now. 5 if you count Van Sumeren, who's out of the portal and back in the program. 6 if you count Ma'anate Ote. So you're right, the linebacker room all of a sudden is loaded. 6 of them at 2 positions. Some of those guys can spill over to nickel a little bit. Darius Snow could spill over to nickel. We saw that in the spring scrimmage. Saw Snow playing some weak side linebacker, and also the nickel. And what that does, if you have Snow at the nickel, which he played last year and did a good job with it, and he's added some strength, and he's a year older, and he's a young man that could thump out there, quick enough to play that weak position. And if they're in a man-to-man scheme, he can turn and run and cover some people. You put him over in the nickel, he can turn and run and cover some people. Or he does a real nice job with the zone drops, smooth, correct angle and coming out of his breaks quickly. Snow is really maturing as a player. You put him in the nickel with 2 other linebackers out there. Now you can play more of a 4-3 when you play the Badgers. And I'm wondering if some of that flexibility that Michigan State is putting into the thing, like you get, it's second and goal at the 4-yard line. Wisconsin's got the ball. You put Snow at the nickel and you put Van Sumeren as an inside linebacker. It completely changes the defense, the look of the defense, the capabilities of the defense to take on a run-first attack like Wisconsin. So they're building towards some flexibility there. And Snow is a flexible player that allows you to do that. So you're asking, more 3-3-5? Michigan State's been a 4-2-5, right? One of the 4 defensive ends sometimes stands up, and people might say that's a 3-3-5, but it's really a 4-down situation with 2 and then the nickel. But if you have Snow as the nickel, if that it can reduce to a 4-3 look depending on what the formation does and who you're playing. So there's some flexibility that's going into that you're going to need in football these days, maybe more so in the Big Ten than anywhere else, because there's a Wisconsin in the Big Ten. And Michigan, became married to the ground game more so last year and had and they were effective with it. Question, Spefton from East Lansing. He says, our receiving core has received a lot of praise, but outside of Jaden Reed and Trey Mosley, who are proven playmakers, we seem to have a lot of promising talent, but no real established players. We seem to have a lot of promising talent, but no real established players. Do you see this differently? Who are the wide receivers who, in your opinion, are the best bets to turn into real playmaking threats? Yeah, you're right. You've got Jaden Reed and Mosley, and then no proven playmakers after that. But that's part of the deal in the cyclical nature of college football. You're going to graduate some guys like Speedy Naylor. Ricky White, of course, moved down a couple of years ago. But we talked about Keon Coleman earlier, 7 catches last year, started in the spring scrimmage. So Coleman has the inside track there. Christian Fitzpatrick got some time early off the bench. Jeremy Bernard, the 4-star mid-year enrollee, has a real nice future. A lot to learn there, though. Let me see here. Let me see who I'm forgetting. I got too many notes in here. Montori Foster. We didn't see Montori Foster on Saturday, did we? A guy that was in the playing group a little bit last year, fringe playing group guy. I wonder about Cade McDonald also. Walk on from Illinois, high school teammate of Jaden Reed's and Peyton Thorne. Interesting guy. And like we mentioned, Jeremy Bernard. Last year, they only played 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. Christian Fitzpatrick got on the field a little bit last year. Big guy, blocker guy. But you're right. They've got 2 proven players, not 3. But you look around the country, there's not a lot of programs with 3 returning receivers with more than 50 career catches. Cyclical nature of college football. Let's go here to the comments section and see what we've got over here. And in the meantime, I'm going to post phone number. 616. I know that's a Grand Rapids, West Michigan area code, but that's what they gave me when we put all this together with Ecamm Live. Would have loved to have had a 517 number, but couldn't do it for some reason. 439-1158. Make sure I got this number right. Yeah, we're commercial free here. We do not have a producer, so I'm doing a lot of this stuff on my own, and sometimes it's a catastrophe. So far tonight, we're okay. 616-439-1158. That's what it is. So if you want to call the show and get on the fun, we will allow that to, we'll give that a chance. Tyron Garland coming in first says, sup, comp. Tyron Garland, former middle linebacker from New Jersey, part of the 1993 recruiting class. Good to have him here. We're going to have Ty Garland down low. I know he wasn't the tallest linebacker, but I got him as a stretch 4, shooting it and putting an elbow into the esophagus and grabbing rebounds all over the place. Steve Meyer. Hi, Jim. Eagerly listening from McKinney, Texas. Good to have Steve Meyer. Thanks for joining the program. Mr. Bone Man says hello all. Gordon Tonona, he's a regular. He's got all kinds of helmet stickers, Gordon Tonona. And Mark Carrier. Let's see what we got here.
Call from.
Yes, Timon.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail. Call from.
Kelly Spartan.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
All right, let's go out to Detroit, talk to Callie Spartan. Welcome to SpartanMag Live. You know, Callie Spartan, you're the second man to call tonight. Earlier, we just got a call a second ago, and I didn't really hear what his name was, so we had to move on from him. Whoever that gentleman was, if you want to call back, give it another try. If we recognize your name. I didn't recognize your number, so we didn't put you through, but try again and we'll get you on there. But Callie Spartan always has some opinions, some observations. A lot of stuff going on with Michigan State football, all over that, Michigan State athletics, all over the athletic department. And we talked about it at SpartanMag, SpartanMag.com over the Underground Bunker Final Forum. A lot of things bouncing around today. And Callie Spartan, I'm sure you've got some thoughts on things. What's on your mind here on a Monday night? You're in Detroit. I'm in East Lansing. Go ahead. You're on the show. What's up, Callie Spartan?
Hey, what's happening, comp? Dude, it's a lot of intrigue going on at Michigan State athletics on both sides of the spectrum. Football, everything just seems like a new president every day. Like this, the momentum is incredible. Like I was at the spring game this past weekend, it was just everything just felt right. And inversely, not to say everything feels wrong with MSU basketball, but there's a lot of as you were implying, there's a lot of hand-wringing going on the border right now about a certain, a big man who, might be leaving, and the lack of someone that we could foresee coming in because, information doesn't flow the same way the basketball department does the football department for various reasons. But I'll go to the positives first. Man, if you were at the spring game, well, I know you were, but whoever went to the spring game and saw the field, the players just look so much, they just look different. They look bigger. They look like the guys like you say all the time, like they win the Get Off the Bus awards. Like it's like we got you don't see guys who look chubby. You just see guys who look big, they're football players, man. I think you said this years ago. Like Michigan may get good athletes, but Ohio State always gets good football players. And I feel like our team's starting to get good football players again. Like the speed, the talent, just even down to the walk-ons. Like that K. McDonald kid, if that's his name. Like that leap and catch he had. Like when your walk-ons look like they can, play some games and do some things for you, you're doing something good, man.
I agree with you. I'll stop you right there. I agree with you with Cade McDonald, and if Ron Armstrong, Big Movie, if he were on the show tonight, he would agree with you. That's something that he's noticed when he's been out there, that just across the board, there's bigger human beings, offensive line included. Gino Vandenberg didn't see him on the field because he's on the shelf a little bit, just temporarily. So that Mel Tucker, when he came in, said he wanted to go after a bigger frame set. We're seeing that at the corner position, seeing that on the offensive line, seeing it on the edge with the defense a little bit. Would have liked to have seen, you mentioned Cade McDonald, a wide receiver walk-on. I mentioned earlier, I'd like to see more walk-on offensive linemen. I'm sure that they'll be addressing that. They got caught this year a little bit shorthanded, a shortage of walk-on offensive linemen, which can usually help service you during the spring. But I think you're right. I think Ron Armstrong would agree with you also that, down at field level, there's bigger human beings out there, and that's not a bad thing.
I mean, perfect example. We talk about Harmon, man.
Yeah.
6'5", 350. Now, for people who understand how big that is, this is that Jordan Davis kid from Georgia is only an inch taller and only 10 pounds heavier.
Is that what they're listing Harmon at? 6'5", 350? Let me go.
Yeah.
Let me go. Give me 10 seconds. I'm gonna go get my roster. Hold on.
Yeah, it was someone posted it on the board, like the roster they had. Maybe it was from like earlier in the spring, but when I saw it, I'm like, that's a huge human being.
Yes.
And no lie, he looks that big.
6'5",
Like,
330.
he looks
6'5", 330. I mean, he might
330.
be.
Okay.
Well, that's what these sizes are from last fall. I think they didn't update him this spring, but fact of the matter, 6'5". And as a SpartanMag subscriber, that I liked him. I thought he was underrated as a recruit. You remember me saying that, right? I hope you do.
No, yeah, I mean, dude, like he's impressive. Like, and we were sitting close enough to the field so when he stood next to the Coble kid, the kid from the transfer from Florida, that kid, he looks like he's put together, and he looks like how Mark Henry looked next to Brandon, like next to Derrick Henry at the Alabama National Championship a few years ago. You remember the picture where Mark Ingram was looking at Henry like, that's a big dude.
Yes.
Like that's what it looked like comparison wise. I'm like, oh, this is the new Florida kid.
And,
when he was doing pass rush, I'm like, this dude's quick. And then you see Harmon sitting next to him. I'm like, oh man, we got some serious players now.
There's a few.
Like
Chris Bogle, you're talking about the transfer from Florida. By the way, we got Jim Reynolds. Thank you to Jim Reynolds for a super chat sponsorship, personal sponsorship. Thanks a lot, Jim. Really appreciate that. He says, thanks for the chat comp. Thank you, Jim Reynolds. And if anyone else wants to do that, we will field your question and put it up at the top of the list for any personal sponsorships out there in the tip jar tonight on a Monday night in East Lansing. Chris Bogle, the transfer from Florida, edge guy. I saw him take on Evan Morris. I saw him against Evan Morris, who's out there playing tight end because they were low on tight ends. And Evan Morris, let's see, 92. Yeah, Evan Morris, 6'5", 240 as a junior. Came in as a kicker, tight end type of guy. He's a walk-on, has been bouncing around a little bit. And Bogle did what you should do against Evan Morris. He was two-gapping him, and he knocked his head back and gained 2 steps of separation on him and bounced the play inside. Bogle came in from Florida as like an edge, guy with maybe some pass rush ability. Not somebody that I thought would be – I was wondering about him, point of attack, and I know he's going against Evan Morris, not the best tight end, but it was nice to see him, throat somebody rather than trying to olay somebody, you know what I mean? And he got a pat on the back from Marco Coleman after that rep. That doesn't mean everything, but Chris Bogle is a guy that they could use a lot of work from in a lot of different ways this year, and we're still seeing whether that's going to pan out. But he looks good in the airport.
Did you watch all the film of the spring game?
Not yet. Not yet. I took some of my own film also, and I'm going to go ahead and put some of that film on here right now. And I labeled.
If you watch all his snaps when they were doing the 7-on-7s or whatever they were doing when they're doing live scrimmage time, every time he was on the field, Now, that might be hyperbole, but every time I saw him on the field, he was in the backfield.
Talking about Chris Bogle? Chris Bogle you're talking about?
Yeah, and I mentioned that because of this. During a scrimmage, when other guys are just trying to get through it, and you got a guy who's always just going for it, even in a scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
Like he may not got a sack or whatever, but he was always in the backfield, always. Like he was hammering for it. And like this, there were like parts of it where they were trying to showcase a play. So you see guys like sometimes the defensive tackles would just stand up like they weren't rushing. He always just rushed. He always did. Like like if you watch that film where he's on the field, he's always there. Like he's always giving the effort. I thought that was very interesting. Like, yeah, I might be wrong, but like if you get some time to look at it and just like look at his plays, he's always just he's like it's like he's playing at game speed all the time.
Talking about Bogle?
I think that's a good trait.
You know, those guys are excited. I mean, Chris Bogle's excited to be at Michigan State. Amir Speed is excited to be at Michigan State. I mean, call them what they are. They are college free agents. And they're coming from the SEC to a program. Mel Tucker's got it going. They're excited. They're excited to be wanted, excited to have an opportunity, excited to have some responsibility, you know? So, I mean, those guys, and Brule, the kid from Mississippi State, I'm intrigued about him. And I've mentioned this on some other shows. I've mentioned it before on the VCast. Brule is a guy that at Mississippi State last year I thought didn't have the tightest look to him. I thought that, you know, he didn't really have great arm definition. Sometimes those are things you usually see in a linebacker. Zero bad weight, right? And I was like, okay, you know, this is a 4-star guy coming in from Louisiana. You know, he's got some horsepower, but I'm not sure that engine was completely well-serviced under the hood down there at Mississippi State. I don't know what Mike Leach has got going on down there, but comes to Michigan State, and he was supposed to be the face of the defense last year. He was okay. Comes to Michigan State. We know what Kenneth Walker became last year, and he was good at Wake Forest, but he wasn't this good. He became better at Michigan State. Why? That young man put in the work. He put in the work based under the tutelage of Novak, the strength and conditioning coach, Amber Reinstein and her staff over there with the nutrition program. The strength and nutrition program at Michigan State. Proof is in the pudding, or the proof of not eating too much pudding, with Kenneth Walker taking his game up a level. Brule now, I think, I'm not saying he's going to be at the Kenneth Walker, the linebacker position, but that lack of cut that he had at Mississippi State, I don't think that's going to be the case that he had at Mississippi State. That won't be the case at Michigan State. Whatever he's capable of, they're going to sharpen it up, and it's going to be better than what he was at Mississippi State. And if he becomes like really, really good this year, then in my opinion, it'll just be conclusive that the strength conditioning nutrition program had a lot to do with it, with setting up some of these guys who are free agents, setting these guys up to take their game to the level they want to aspire to for the professional level and do it at a place like Michigan State. They can continue to sell that and sell that. That's why in a lot of ways Brule is an important guy. Bogle's an important guy too. So is Berger. And Broussard will be as well.
Well, yeah, man, I agree 100% with that. I want to add one more dude to that. Actually, two more, because I'm not gonna shortchange Cal Holiday. Like he's still fighting out there. I like that. But Winman is like the what if of if Danico's Allen was just a few inches taller. Yeah. Because when he hits people, like he's hitting people very suddenly, and it's just like I can't explain it. Like it's like, you know how there's game speed, quickness, and then there's just like how did this guy get there at that time? And like it had to be at that moment, or else the play wouldn't have made it. I feel like I've seen Winman in a few like videos and like seeing him on the field a few times. Like he's very sudden, and like that's going to pay dividends, man. Like it's not like he's hitting people in a way where you're going to get fouls either. Like he's using good technique, and it looks more violent than it is. But like I don't know, man. Like I think that kid's going to be special.
Well, I've got to look at it a little more closely. But I looked at his UNLV film last year, and by the way, I've got some video going right now from the spring game, and we just showed that diving catch by Cade McDonald. I don't have all these players tagged so that the viewers can see who they are. I was in the process of doing that and ran out of time. The first couple of snaps we had that, but anyway, Winman, looking at his UNLV stuff. I'll talk about that in a second. But above and aside what you saw from Windman in the scrimmage, talking about Jacoby Windman, linebacker transfer from UNLV, he is getting a lot of great reviews as a natural leader. They like that he's got a voice. He's coming in. He's directing traffic, which is exactly what you need at the Mike linebacker position. So in addition to all the physical abilities that he brings to the table, he's got a winning personality too. As far as him as a player, these were my notes from him when I looked at him in his UNLV film during the winter right after he transferred. I had a long. I don't know if I want to go through all of these. I've got a lot of notations here. And if you're not familiar with SpartanMag.com, go over to SpartanMag.com or do a Jacoby Windman search, Jacoby Windman Spartan Mag, and it'll probably come up maybe as a free story. Really good at using his hands to shock and control blockers. Has the punch to strike a bigger man and keep coming forward. Uncommon upper body power for a linebacker. There was an amazing clip of him last year bull rushing a left tackle and pancaking a man who's got 100 pounds on him. Can turn the corner on the pass rush well, can dip the shoulder and turn the corner. And he flashed some eye-popping athleticism last year at UNLV when he hurdled a cut block attempt by a running back against San Diego State. Hurdles a cut block, goes in, gets a sack. Kind of an uncommon play. Also against San Diego State, showed the ability to move with his gap, read, run, and then explode downhill to make a crisp tackle in an instant with some physicality. And there was one play against Zachary Thomas, who's a senior left tackle for San Diego State. Zachary Thomas is 6'5", 300, and he put a really good move on him to get a sack. And Thomas is a two-time second-team All-Mountain West selection. And Jacoby Windman froze Zachary Thomas with a head and shoulder fake to the inside, then executed a shoulder dip, rip to the outside. Excellent quickness, selling the inside fake. Excellent ability to bend, get low, make himself small, dip past Thomas. Then he had the flexibility and the fluidity to turn the corner, secure the tackle for the quarterback sack. Did it all with smooth athleticism, seemingly accelerating through every move. That was big time, I thought, from Windman. And that was some of the things that I saw from him last year on film, some specifics. And he's improved he's proved himself as a leader a little bit this fall. And you're right, Cal Halliday is a proven player too. You're bringing those two guys in, helping to compete there. And did you see the post-game press conference that we've got it here on the YouTube channel and put it over at the Underground Bunker message board at SpartanMag.com when Peyton Thorne and Jaden Reed were talking about the defense? Peyton Thorne said, "We've really added some athletes," or words to that effect, and raised his eyebrows and said, "I'm just going to leave it at that." And Jaden Reed nodded, raised his eyebrows, and said, "I completely agree." They didn't want to go into specifics, but you could tell they are impressed with some of the athletes that have been added to the defense. I'm assuming they're talking about Brule, Amir Speed, and probably your guy Windman.
I mean, they just look impressive, man. Like it's good to see. I like I said, I have no complaints with the football department right now. Like they're answering the bell. Like it's pretty open information. I you know what? It's maybe not so much open information as much as there's so much buzz going around that this is literally what we've been asking for years in terms of good PR for our athletic department. Because it's like it's not in like a, you know what? It's like in a non-smarmy way. It's what U of M does, but you know ours is based on facts.
Well,
in terms of,
I'll let you make that comment. That's fine. I mean, that's
yeah. You
fine.
know, I mean, like when people talk about our athletic department for football, you know, you can see it. You can see the results. You can see what's happening. It's not hyperbole. You know, we can see these guys are bigger. We can see these guys are getting stronger. We've already are winning more because of the recruiting battles. Like we're ahead of schedule, man. We're getting 4 and 5 stars coming in, like not just with mouth service, like legitimately 4 and 5 star kids. Well, I haven't seen 5 star yet. I'm sorry. 4-star kids are committing in droves, man. Like in droves. Like it's amazing. Like it's so cool to be able to talk about, like, especially downtown Detroit where Spartan fandom is like, it's like Spartan fans are like, it's hard. It's like they're afraid to be proud to be Spartan fans. Like, especially with like, it's football. They're like, cause it's so much kowtowing to U of M out here in Detroit. But like Mel Tucker's changing all that, dude. Like you see kids like teenagers and stuff like downtown Spartan gear, like people who don't even look like, in my opinion, athletes. This was like regular civilian folk. And, I mean, I don't know, it's just a good buzz, man. It's good energy.
All right.
It's exciting.
Well, keep talking the talk down there in the Motor City, Cali Spartan. Now, I know you wanted to talk a little basketball, too. You're doing some hand-wringing about what's some of the rumors coming out of Michigan State basketball. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, man. Like, I've went from earlier today, like, trying to logically talk to people about a 3-step idea of what I think is going to happen with. Are we allowed to say players' names on here that are supposed to be out the program, or do we just leave that?
I appreciate the respect that you have for all that without putting it out there, but I'm going to. I'll just mention that there are some rumors that came up on the Final Forum and also out on Twitter from Ant Thomas, who's pretty credible guy that's played basketball at Michigan, and he's kind of somewhat of a media figure. And he threw out there that Michigan State kind of insinuated that they're going to be losing someone else to the transfer portal. And then there's some talk on our message board and some others, just rumors that it could be Julius Marble. All right, and some other credible posters have said that it is him. I've not been able to confirm that. I'm just telling you what the rumors are, and we've been looking into it. Frankly, I was running an errand about 3 hours ago, and I was driving, and I drove over to campus, and I drove into the Breslin Center. I went through the parking lot just for the off chance that maybe Izzo would be coming out of work. I'm serious. And I saw Mike Garland, but I didn't stop him. But sometimes Izzo's in a talking mood. I was just going to, rather than calling him or texting him or whatever, I just wanted to cross paths with him. I didn't see him. I probably didn't miss him by much. But just to give you an idea, I've got my ear to the ground trying to figure out what's going on, because those are some serious rumors. And any plans for next year included Julius Marble at the center position, with Matty Sissoko coming up, continuing as an understudy. And I would just say, there's a lot of people on our message board who's like, well, it's okay, he wasn't that good of a player. That means we'll get someone better in the portal. Dude, the portal, it's not a real thick market out there in the portal. There's a couple of good ones that are big men, but not many. And Julius Marble is slated to come back as a senior, a guy that knows the system. People on our message board were criticizing his defense, his ball screen defense. He's solid with ball screen defense. He's solid. There were some times when, like against Iowa and some teams that got some people cutting to the rim. I mean, sometimes a big man might look like it's his fault when maybe someone else isn't doing it properly, or maybe the call-outs weren't just right. I'm not saying he's great, but he's not bad in that department. And if he had more minutes, his numbers would be better. Someone that's a senior and a role player, those guys are rare commodities. And you can, one of the axioms in college basketball is to get old and stay old. There's nothing that's part of the get old, stay old plan when a fourth-year senior who's finally going to get a chance to start might be leaving, and we don't know that for a fact. That's just some of the rumors that are out there. And some people saying, oh, that's a good thing. Man, I don't see it that way at all if that happens. It can't be something they were planning on. I'm still trying to gather information on it, but live, we're sitting here talking about it. That's the way I see it.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's like this morning, earlier today, when the news broke, I posted on the board in the thread. I was like, hey, this is one of three things. Because this was before the name Julius came out, I was just like, it's either Julius or Maddie, and one of three things is probably because of this. Well, number one, if one of them is leaving, it's probably because we got somebody coming in that they feel is going to beat them out for time. Number two, that
but we've seen no indication of that. We've seen
I'm saying, there's rumors, but that's just what they are, just rumors.
Well,
the other thing I said was
you're talking about the guy from Indiana, Trace Jackson Davis, right? Rumors that there's some interest there. I mean, that guy, he's testing the NBA waters. He's not in the portal. I mean, I know there's been some talk, and I know Izzo loves him, and they love Izzo, but for him, I'll believe that when I see him in the portal, and I'm doubting that one right now.
Well, the second thing I mentioned was, if one of them is leaving, it's probably because someone's coming back. And the only person who could come back who would threaten them for time at the 5 is Bingham. Mm-hmm. So
that's a possibility. And whether that was the precursor or not, if Marble is moving on, and again, these are just rumors, and we're just talking basketball here. And I don't know. It's out on Twitter, and Izzo hates Twitter, right? And he would hate that we're talking about this. But hey, it's college basketball. It's big business. We're going to talk about it. Izzo might even call me up and say, "What are you talking about that crap for?" I don't know. He can. I'd like to hear from him if so, but he's not watching. But he might hear about it. But we're talking about it. It's college basketball.
Well, I mean,
if Marble,
it's a logical...
let me finish my thought.
Yeah,
if Marble is leaving, let's just say, then I think, Bingham is planning. He's thinking about the NBA. All of his thoughts are on the NBA. I think down the road, if he keeps getting better as a maturing young man, believe it or not, I think he might be able to play defense in the NBA, which is the first thing to making a roster. Okay? And I'm not getting into the rest of it. But anyway, he says he's focusing on that. And some of us might think he's not going to get drafted. And he probably won't. Bingham probably won't, even though I think he's got some potential there. And he might be ready to give that a shot, even if it means playing in the G League next year. This is just me and you in the fence post talking. If these rumors are true, wait. If that's true and Marble's gone, and I'm not saying that's the case. I've got to keep saying this. I've got to keep putting these disclaimers out there because people might just be joining. But let's say, theoretically, if Marble leaves and Bingham is, a foot and a half out the door, 80% out the door, then I think you get the name, image, and likeness money together, and you give a deal to Marcus Bingham and say, put your pro aspirations on hold for another year. Here's some semi-professional money that's going to be more than you can make at the G League, because we need you back because we got a crisis now, and we love you, you love us. Here's some money. This is a crisis. We're fixing it. And that's not even semi-pro. That's just the way basketball is now. It's easy for me to spend someone else's money, Cali Spartan, but if you have that crisis, that's one thing you could attempt to do. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I don't know how it works because the landscape is changing rapidly. I don't know what you can do and can't do. But that's something that I would think about.
Comp, you might be a prophet, dude, because that's probably exactly what would happen. Because, I'm just saying logically here.
Necessity would require it, right?
Yeah, I mean, for Marble to leave, when by all accounts he will be the starting five, and the only person he have to worry about really for taking minutes is Maddie. And Maddie, who didn't even play in the tournament, is his only competition for the five. Right. It doesn't make logical sense for him to leave because he has all the time, unless someone who was going to start most likely comes back and starts over him. Now, screw the portal, right? I'm not going to bring up the Indiana guy because that's a long shot. But what you just described with Bingham is, in my mind, that's the key. Because, like I said, why would you go into the portal and you were good as a backup, but everyone saw the same games we did. He'd have to basically go down on division to get the same amount of time he would get at Michigan State, unless Bingham coming back. Mm-hmm. That is the most logical conclusion to this. Whether it's the front end or coming in on the back end, I don't know. But that's why I was kind of hoping I'd bump into Izzo today, but I didn't. Now, if I had bumped into him, he might have sworn me to secrecy on stuff, and I wouldn't be able to talk about it. I don't know. But, hey, we're just talking basketball. He would like the fact we're talking college basketball here on a snowy April night in the state of Michigan. He's got to like that, for better or for worse. The last thing I said that was possible is going to happen was this. And this is the thing. This is the worst case scenario. It's just that Marble is just sick of being here and he wants to leave. And if that's true and he just wants to leave and no Bingham comes back and there's no portal kid, that is a crisis situation.
I do not disagree. Because
after reading the thread throughout the day, that last option I just said became really a real thing in my mind.
I agree.
Because I'm you got someone, I don't know what poster said this to me, but hey man, you're thinking like a fan. You got to think about somebody who's playing in and day out, who's actually there. And sometimes people just want to leave. And I just thought about that for a while at my desk, and I'm like, that's entirely possible. Like, you know, thinking as a fan, I'm like, logically, well, that means Bingham's coming back, or we're logically getting somebody because Izzo wouldn't leave us out to dry. And then I'm like,
or
he just wants to leave. And then that's where I started teetering from the Bingham sweepstakes coming back to maybe we're screwed and we're sitting here with, like, because you said it earlier on the post on the same thread, you know, Marvel and Maddie is better than Maddie and nobody.
Yes.
And we're very close to being Maddie and nobody.
Mm-hmm. And people can talk about the portal, and you know, I was looking at some of the big men in the portal, and it's and I looked at it last year, the big men in the portal. It's not a deep cast. It's not, you know, a lot of people think you just go to the portal like you're going to Walmart and just get a big man. They don't. They're not. There's not a lot of them out there. Not a lot of them out there, and the two or three that might be better than Marble, I mean, they're kind of already spoken for. People assume there's a lot of people out there better than Marble in the portal. There's not. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like for all his shortcomings defensively, at least you can. I mean,
and I don't think
he had one real major skill. He was really good in mid range, and you know, it's not shooting threes, but it's points. He was reliably shooting within 17 feet of the basket pretty well. Like, I would say better than a coin flip. Wherever he got his spots were in the 17 feet range, he was hitting those like religiously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, I would buy that. Like 6 points, you know, people think 6 points is easy to replace, but what is it? How many guys are you getting to on the court at one time? Like, replacing 6 points isn't just like that, or else, you know, shoot. I mean, perfect example.
His points per minute were pretty good. His points per minute.
Yeah.
And he, what was he, 7 out of 7 from the field when they upset Purdue that night?
Yeah, I mean, people talk about how beloved Kenny Goings was. He averaged 7 points his senior year.
Yeah, he was very good at the end, but he was just kind of a role guy for a long time.
Yeah, so like when you think about that, if Julius Marble was averaging 6 points, and people thought he was a bum, but inversely, Kenny G was averaging 7 or 8 points, and he's beloved. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. And what I'm trying to make a point of is you just don't throw away points.
No.
You don't throw away minutes because it's hard to replace that. It's not like we have infinite amounts of kids coming in. We have a freshman.
Or a 22-year-old grown man that knows the system. I mean, you know, people think bring in someone from the portal, they have a lot to learn. You know. I mean, we have a freshman big. You gonna bring in Ben Carter? You know.
Yeah, we have a freshman big coming in who we have no idea what he's going to be when he gets here. We have no idea if he's going to be in shape.
Good teenage skill set, but you know, a lot of people are freaking out about what Matty Sissoko is, but that's what top 50, 6'10", 6'9" plus guys look like. They look like that. That's what most of them, and they're projects. I mean, we see the best ones that end up at Duke and Kansas and North Carolina, but most of them have a long way to go. There's just not many 6'9" people walking the earth. And, you know, you can be a top 75 national guy at 6'10", and they get to college and people are like, that's the guy that was ranked this high? Marcus Bingham was number 50 in the country. You know, it takes a while.
Yeah, man. I mean, shoot. I mean, let's just break it down, Comp. We got a freshman coming in who on Rivals, I think, says he's 6'10". Some people say he's 6'9", but still, that's as a freshman. Mm-hmm. And if Marble's gone, we have Maddie, who's 6'9", but he has a 7-something wingspan, so that's good as long as he can get that together. But after that, I mean, we want spot minutes of Joey at the 5? Y'all really want to see him in the paint getting abused defensively? I don't want to see that. And that's it. Like, this, we don't have a lot of options here. Right. You know, people want to talk about we can replace, like you said, we can replace Marble easy. I'm like, if it was so easy, Izzo would have did it already.
Right.
Let's think about that. Like, you think Izzo wouldn't have tried to find a better dude if he could have by this time? And he's tried. Sure. I mean, we've seen the misses. We've seen the guys who went to other schools who would have came here and probably got some minutes off Marble that people would have been happy about. But that's not the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is we got our hopes and dreams on a kid who we've never seen play college basketball come in, and we got a guy who basically learned basketball a year or two before he came to Michigan State in Maddie.
The unknown is undefeated. People think that that's better than having Marble, and they're wrong. Anyway, we got to move on. Anything else? Any parting thoughts?
Shoot, man, it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks with this portal. Hey, you know what? Let me ask you one thing. Who do you think the Lions are going to pick with the number 2 pick? That's my final thought.
They're going to take Hutchinson, and he's going to be mediocre.
Your lips to God's ears. See you, Comp.
All right. There goes Kelly Spartan. Appreciate him being part of the program tonight. Let's should I cut away from this a little bit? Can't even remember. Let's do that one. There we go. Let's go back to let's go to the mailbag. We got Sola Beer Guy. No, this is Cool Breeze 503 from Parts Unknown. He says, "Hey Jim, have you gotten a chance to watch Eddie Pleasant's film?" Eddie Pleasant, the Michigan State commitment corner from Tampa. Let's see. Let me see here. Let me look at my commitment analysis. 2023. Where's it at? Here. Wait. There it is. My notes on Eddie Pleasant. He's physically well put together. He's not like a skinny, thin teenage corner. He's put together well, which is good. Sometimes those guys that are put together real well, sometimes they've maxed out their potential a little bit. That's one thing that I wasn't really thrilled about with who's the hyphenated guy from Michigan 3 or 4 years ago. He was a 4-star, and I'm like, that guy's not in the top 15 in the state. Took some abuse for that, but he was out of the program in 2 years. Detroit area kid, same year as Ambry Thomas, I think. Let me look it up here. I think it was the same year as Ambry Thomas. 2017. Let's see. Jalen Kelly Powell from Cass Tech, 6 feet 180. I mean, he gave everything he had, but he's really jacked up and was kind of physical in the t-shirt and shorts camp. And some people were impressed by that. I'm like, well, that doesn't really count because he's playing like he's got pads on and these other guys don't. Anyway, you know, his burst was for many reasons. I mean, he was a 4-star, but I think he ended up being a 3-star. It looks like here. But I was like, we didn't have him in the top 15. I think that's the last time we did the top 25 on the 25th. Nothing against Jalen, but sometimes guys that are real physically built as defensive backs at an early age, it's not always ideal in terms of having more ceiling of potential from that point on. Let me look at this picture of him. Okay, the picture of him with Mel Tucker. He doesn't really he's got a hoodie on, so you can't really tell. But he's physically put together. I'm just being the devil's advocate on that. And he puts that physicality to good use at the high school level. Physical as a tackler, physical in getting off blocks. He's comfortable in playing press at the high school level in Florida against good competition. He does a good job leveraging the ball and leveraging blocks with technique, physicality, and IQ. Good short area quickness. Not sure about his next gear speed. We don't really get a chance to see him turn and run deep on someone that's fast. And we didn't really get a chance to see his deep ball judgment on the huddle film. I looked at his film as he became a silent commitment for Michigan State and then a commitment, and I compared it to the Yates kid from Texas, whom Michigan State could have had, a 4-star who's ranked higher. I look at Yates, and physicality does not come as natural to Yates as it does for Pleasant. Not as physical. Yates is just a little bit, I don't know if awkward's the right word, but the balance is not as great. And I'm not sure about the top end speed for either of them. Yates is supposedly 6'2", and Pleasant is 6 feet. So Yates is supposedly taller. But Michigan State recruiting from a position of strength decided to go after Pleasant, and they know more about it than I do. And when I look, I like the physicality. Here's Pleasant right here, right now. Let's see if this is gonna. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can. I gotta take this. All right. Where's he at there? All right. So here he is doing a little W move with his cut, back pedal, and the cut break. Playing the edge here, short side, leveraging. Tackling through a guy. Rugby roll. Nice. To the field, zone drop. Gets outside to leverage it. Converge. Lowers his shoulder. Physical tackle or tackle at the end. A corner with some physicality. Inside technique to the field. Press. What I like about that one, that was some film study there. He sees his man drop back into the backfield. Corner, Pleasant, has seen this on film, reacts to it, knows what's coming. Film study comes out, breaks up the pass. Short side, press, inside technique. Stacks him up, or he prevents, he bodies him up, jam, fade, erases the fade, no flag. Short side. Again, that got some pretty good 0 to 60 quickness here. This is short area quickness. Again, film study. Recognizes, got a wide receiver screen, and quick out there. So got some short area quickness. And some grappling hooks there with his arms. Don't underestimate that. He gets his arms on him and ragdolls him a little bit. Now, I know his teammate arrives also, but I'll give him some credit for grappling hooks there. Press, inside technique, feet. No receiver to his side. Playing the run. They're man-to-man. Leverages it outside in. Firm. Press. Single safety deep. Jam. Gets off the block. Plays it. Playing it out to the perimeter here. So this is a little bubble. He's reading it. Leveraging those blocks. Gets off the block. And that three-step acceleration right there. That's nice quickness. Inside technique again. Leaves him, lowers his shoulder, delivers a blow. Eddie Pleasant, Michigan State's newest commitment. Gets his hands on you, stacks you up pretty good. He's got some of that strength, physical strength. His initial footwork there is good. Now the hip turn. See that there? Off man-to-man. Gaining ground. Turning the hips right here. Hip turn, boom. Not bad. Eddie Pleasant from Tampa. That little quickness there. Then he matches him. He's quick in a phone booth there. I didn't see. Okay, he's on top of the screen. Committed to Michigan State officially over the weekend. I think his decision. All right, now we're going to see some speed here. See him demonstrate some speed. He's up at the top of the screen. Chases it down. Here he comes. Closing speed. Football speed. Off man. Hip turn. Mirrors it. Matches it. Inside technique. Offhand jam. Turn. Size. Erases him. Smooth. Arrives. It's a smooth stride. He's physically built. I'm wondering if he might be a nickel candidate at some point. And he likes to lower that shoulder and strike you. Where's he at here? Kickoff coverage? All right, that's it for him. Eddie Pleasant, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Let's go back to where's the spring field? Here we go. Spring practice field. Nope. Now we'll go back to the Knight Stadium. Now we'll go back to let's go with this one. All right. More questions. Let's go over here to the comments area. Let me see if I've got any more. All right. Got a few. Appreciate everybody taking time to post over here in the comments section. Mr. Bone Man from snowy Harper Woods, Michigan, the home of Bishop Gallagher High School. Noah Sprunger says, hello, everyone. Great to have Noah Sprunger, intern extraordinaire for Michigan State, for SpartanMag.com, helping us cover Michigan State. Appreciate Noah Sprunger being part of the team for sure. Chris Martinez says, smash that like button. We do appreciate that, the like button. Hit it. Fist pumps for everybody giving us a thumbs up. Appreciate that. Pat, attaboys, pats on the back. Good job, guys. I would give you John L. Smith smack, but that's not too cool. It was cool sometimes. Doors Fan 91 says, hey, yo, great to see everyone tonight. Samuel DeJesus says, hey, Jim, who do you think is going to be the backup quarterback for Michigan State? I think it's Noah Kim. I know Hemp Fay is kind of their guy, and he's coming along. I think they like Hauser a lot, too. By October, maybe it's Hauser. I don't know, but I think it's Noah Kim right now. Keith Tunstall says, will you ever have a set schedule? We talked about that earlier. Going to Nona says, I like the surprise approach. We don't mean to surprise everybody. It just kind of turns out that way sometimes. We apologize. Chris Martinez says, how are we feeling on Dante Moore? Dante Moore, the quarterback from Detroit King. Michigan State was in good shape for him. 5-star, top 20 national kid. Big time arm talent. Big time. A good head on his shoulders, too. Michigan State took that commitment from Bo Edmondson out of Texas. He visited this weekend. Michigan State, I heard, sent word to Dante Moore after Edmondson committed and said, we're still recruiting you. We still like you. Just depends on what happens. But I think Notre Dame is coming on strong with Moore. But that's what that one looks like. Cameron Trigg says, how did the Xavier Booker visit go? We're still trying to get a handle on that one. I know Kentucky and Duke are coming in on him also. Xavier Booker, good prospect, ranked top, 60 in the country. Indianapolis Cathedral, 6'10". Needs to keep showing improved physicality. He's got a ways to go. Like all 6'10" guys that are ranked number 50 in the country. Not a finished product, okay? So don't think he's going to come in and be Alonzo Mourning. But he's got a chance, and Michigan State's got a chance with him. The visit itself, we hope to hear more in the near future. We've got our ear to the ground on that, looking into it. Peyton Fleetmeyer says, all right, Mr. Boneman says, I agree with you, Keith. Mr. Boneman wants a regular programming. No Iris checking in from Phoenix. Connor Theo says, hey, Jim, tuning in from the Windy City. Looking forward to seeing tonight's episode. Thanks, Connor Theo. Appreciate that. Kenneth Roberts says, hey, Comp. Kenny live from East Lansing. Biggest fish MSU will fry. I think he's asking who's the biggest recruit that Michigan State's going to get this class. I don't have a good answer for that right now. It's a good question, though. Thanks for the kind words from Noah Sprunger. Keith Tunstall says, will the Michigan State offensive line be healthy and ready for August training camp? Great question. Yeah, I think I've not heard anything. I think Matt Carrick is on schedule. Duplain's going to be fine. We don't know what's going on with Horst. I don't know how reliable that situation is going to be. Vandermark was having a good spring. He should be okay by midsummer. I've not heard anything like any big red flags with those guys. Connor Theo says, serious how you feel the staff would be or will use Elliott Washington if and when he flips. His tape does not suggest he will make his money as a true corner, but rather a free safety or nickel. Your thoughts? Great question, Connor, and I'll give you extra credit and a star for looking at his film. Elliott Washington from Jacksonville, right? He's from Florida, committed to Alabama, ranked number 42 in the country by ESPN, 4-star by Rivals.com. Was committed to Alabama, made a surprise visit to Michigan State. Not a surprise to us. We heard about it a couple days ahead of time, had to keep it a little bit quiet. Dropped a hint over at SpartanMag, Underground Bunker message board. I said a top 100 kid would be visiting. A secret one. It was Washington. And there's rumors of a silent commitment, but I think that one is going to remain silent. I wouldn't look for any social media announcements on that one. I've not looked at his film yet. I got to be truthful with you, but you make an interesting point that you think he's more of a free safety. But Michigan State, they're going to have to continue to do a lot of work there because there's some bigger fish coming in there, and that one's going to They got some continuous work that's going to be taking place there. Rob Dewey says, everyone like the like button. I like your style, Rob. Thanks for saying that. Dog Kenneth says, I love the random show times. Pavlovian approach. Don't mean to. Sorry about that. Rob South says, what's up, fellas? Rob South is late. Cameron Trigg says, how active do you think Izzo will be in the portal? Well, they reached out to Jalen Bridges at West Virginia. Other schools are in on him also. Michigan State seems to have as good a chance as anybody with him. And I think he's a guy, a role player. Difference maker guys, I don't know. There might be a few of those out there. But if this Marble stuff is true, do they have to go get another? Do they have to look into that more seriously, or do they have to try to bring Bingham back? I don't know. But the portal has changed so many things, and it drives Izzo crazy. And I feel for him a little bit because I'm not really sure. I mean, roster management right now is a big task for college basketball coaches. You have so few players that if you have one or two unexpected departures, it's a problem. Gordon Tonona says the one-handed catch by Jaden Reed was impressive. I agree with that. That was a nice one. Cameron Trigg says, who will Tuck go after with the final portal spot? I think an offensive lineman, probably. And if more people go out, they'll have more room. Would they go looking for a walk-on kicker? I don't know. Mr. Bowman says, Comp, I watched the baseball and softball team play this weekend. I don't understand how do they put so much pressure on the hockey coach, but not the baseball and softball coaches. Mr. Boneman, I hope you were layered up properly because it was cold out there, and I give you credit for watching both those programs. Softball team was looking good earlier in the year, but I think in the Big Ten now they're like 1-13. But it's a new day with Mr. Alan Haller in charge, and with Danton Cole being fired, I wonder if that sends a little bit of a message to others. I don't know. Probably. Mr. Bowman says they need a big change over there, and they just don't compete. Gordon Tonona says, it's out of season for hockey, not yet for baseball. Good point for Gordon. It's not like you can fire a coach at midseason. Well, USC did it in football last year, but I'm not sure what that solves. Mr. Bowman says, Gordon, did you see the Michigan game? Got hammered. Sad. So are you saying Michigan State got hammered or you got hammered or both? I know they played Friday at the Lugnut Stadium and it was cold out there. What did I do that night? I couldn't go. And then Saturday was the bowl. It was the spring scrimmage. And then Sunday was Easter, so I didn't see any of those games. I wanted to go to the Friday game at Lugnut's. Did we have baseball practice? I can't remember, just Friday, but I had a good reason why I couldn't go, but not surprised that Michigan won. Kenneth Roberts says, like this video, show Comp some support. Thanks, Kenneth. Appreciate that. Gordon Tonona says, I played for Danny Litweiler. Gordon, athlete, the real deal. So I'm going to back up to see what you said again, because got some credibility now. Gordon showing me something here, but Gordon didn't. He's not calling for anyone's head. Doesn't look like. Mr. Bowman says 12-2 first game, second game 8-4. Yeah, Michigan State just not being competitive with some of these games. Mr. Bowman says, let's see. Jim Reynolds, thanks again to you. Mr. Bowman says, Gordon, they were throwing the ball all over the field. Made me mad as a former baseball player. It was bad. So Mr. Bowman played at Michigan State too. Surrounded by royalty here. Gordon Tonona says, how was the football game? Big Ten Network had poor camera angles. Yeah. I'm going to, some of the video I showed earlier, I will be noting who the players are so you'll have a better idea who you're watching. We'll trot it out again next week. George Page, the former guitar player and keyboard player for Surrender Dorothy, says, hey, Comp, how about a Surrender Dorothy reunion at Rick's September 2nd? I'll see what I can do. Sounds good to me. Is that the night of the Western Michigan game? Is September 2nd a Friday or a Saturday? Surrender Dorothy, one of the top 25 East Lansing bands of all time. September 2nd is a Friday. Is the Michigan State game against Western, is that a Friday? Do we know? You know, football season, it's a little bit weird for me, George. I get busy during football season, both on Fridays and then Saturdays are out because I'm working. Fridays, I'm usually finishing the pre-snap read, and I get done at like 5 or 6. I try to get done at 2, but I always get done at 6. I've been up all night, and I'm tired. And when I'm done at 6, I usually crash. I would go see Surrender Dorothy if it were Friday, even if it was the night before the game. Would I get would I get a little out of control? Would I become overserved? That would hamper my performance the next day. I'm not Bobby Lane. I can't get overserved one night and then produce Hall of Fame material the next day. So I'm more of an August guy in that whole thing. Or you could wait till February for Feb Fest. We got a little thing called Feb Fest with me and some of my friends, guys and girls, come back to East Lansing. I think we're going to do that this year in February. It was 50 Fest this past winter because some of us were turning 50. And we did it also 10 years ago when we turned 40. So this year we made a lot of noise over at the Riv. The Riv is probably the closest to being the most similar to what it was 30 years ago of all the bars. I have to say I've not been in Rick's since the 40 Fest, so I don't know what that looks like anymore. But I know they don't have bands anymore, so that's changed. But anyway, rather than doing it every 10 years, we don't have many 10-year plans left. I proposed to the board that we don't have to wait for the 60 Fest. I say we have Feb Fest every February. So if we could get Surrender Dorothy to do it in February, that might be perfect. If you can do August and February, that'd be fabulous. But keep me posted on that. And if Surrender Dorothy has a reunion, George Page, are you going to have both gals back, the blonde and the brunette, or just the brunette? And I hate to call them by their hair color, but I don't know their names. But anyway, great cover band. One of the top 25 East Lansing bands of all time. But appreciate that. Let's go back to the mailbag. But so September 2nd, if they play Western, is that a Friday game? Let me check here, see if anyone's mentioned it. Is that Western game on Friday? I'm going to do a search right now just because the way my brain works, if I don't get an answer for it, I've got to look it up, and I'll just completely interrupt an on-air presentation to type in MSU football schedule, which I should know. It's kind of important in my life, right? But I don't. 2022 football schedule. Western Michigan. I just lost it. Where is that? Here. It's Friday, September 2nd. So what you're telling me, Michigan State plays Friday night against Western Michigan. You're talking about having a reunion on Friday night. My answer would be no, because I'm working that night. See how that works? I will not be available till 5 a.m. that night. So no. If Surrender Dorothy is asking for my approval for a reunion date at Rick's American Cafe, I'm going to say no on September 2nd. Thank you. All right, back to the mailbag. NC Spartan from North Carolina says, what position group do you anticipate making the biggest step forward based on productivity from last year? It's got to be the defensive backfield. I know that it was not entirely the defensive backfield's fault that Michigan State gave up more passing yardage than any defense in the country. It all works together, including linebackers, including the pass rush. But defensive backfield will be the most improved unit on the team. And that's not saying much in some regards, but Michigan State's defensive backfield played well in some games, including against Miami. Iron sharpens iron, says Jim. Thanks to you and your staff for your hard work and dedication to SpartanMag. Thank you. From Parts Unknown. He says, you floating any ideas, changes to the website. Seems you have instituted something new each year that's benefited the experience. Well, thank you, Iron sharpens iron. Secondly, when you post, make sure to list where you're posting from in the mailbag. But I appreciate you being a magger, and I appreciate you noticing that we do try to make changes. We're always trying to make improvements. And keep an eye on Jason Killup. I think he's really improving and really becoming he's really getting a feel. I shouldn't say improving. He's getting a feel for what the readers want with recruiting coverage. He's doing a great job. And now that spring football's over, I'll be helping with recruiting coverage more as we get into the camp season. the baseball problem that I have, the baseball addiction thing, I've got this year and next year for that, and then that's going to be done. Joyfully or sadly, I don't know. It'll be both. Joyfully in that I'll be able to get back more into recruiting coverage on a regular basis, I think. But we're looking to improve that. I'd like to do this show 3 times a week and not have it go 2 hours. Maybe we go like one long form on a Wednesday and we go short on Monday or Friday or Tuesday and Friday, depending on what news is going on in the afternoon. And maybe that's not even live. I'm not sure. And we'd probably still do it live. It's better video quality if we don't go live and just tape something and put it up. But I don't know. That's kind of a little bit sterile. Other things, we're just always trying to get better. I mean, if we had like unlimited resources and a staff of 8 people, we could just keep piling more and more coverage on stuff. We've got a good staff. Paul Konendijk does a great job. Noah Sprunger doing a good job. Ricardo Cooney. I'd like to have 5 Paul Konendijks. You know what I'm saying? 2 or 3 Jasons and Noahs and even more. And so there's more that can be done. Our website's pretty good. As a news organization, I'm pretty happy with what SpartanMag.com's been for the last 25 years or whatever. But I'm always like, man, we could be better. And I know how we could be better. It takes resources, which if we have more subscribers, we got more to work with and we can do more of those things. We need more pairs of boots on the ground. But appreciate you checking. I appreciate you watching the website over the years. The podcast, we've moved the podcast, as you can see, over to the YouTube, more so than the old Skull Sessions. The Skull Session, we got to where we really got a good handle on the audio quality there. Because I listen to like Sirius Satellite sometimes, and they put podcasts on Sirius Satellite, and I'm like, that audio sounds like garbage. It sounds like something SpartanMag would have put out like 8 years ago. So I'm happy with our audio quality when we do have a Skull Session podcast. Sometimes we've had to do that because maybe cameras weren't available or where we were and so forth. We did 1 or 2 with Big Movie during the season. We've done it with Konendijk. I like the YouTube thing because it gives us the potential to, I think with their algorithms, it's easier to be placed in front of Michigan State fans out there that might not be aware of us, which we're always looking for more subscribers. All right, we've got Pierre St. Pierre says, hey, Jim, curious what you think the big announcement could be from the university that everyone has been alluding to and when we might expect to hear about it. You're talking about something that Brian Musalem and Jason Strayhorn said on their podcast last week about a big announcement coming. Curious what I think the big announcement could be. I think it's just going to be an organizational thing to go forward on some things that are important across the board. I know that's vague, but it's what it is right now. That's all I can say. Pierre St. Pierre says also that front 7 looks versatile. And it's not like I'm important and I know. It's just I heard from somebody, but I can't say it because he was kind of told it was on the down low. So it's not, it's progressive. It's ambitious and aggressive on the athletic front with the changing landscape. Also, he says that front 7 looks versatile and quick. Talking about football here. He says they made a fool of a makeshift spring game offensive line, but that's what we're looking for. Excited to see what the defense looks full strength when Ron and Speed are on the edges. I would agree with all that. Spartan Spirit from West Palm Beach, Florida says, hey, I'm thinking from an early 18th point of view that our roster makeup from top to bottom is maybe much better this season than last season. He says last year had a magical feel to it. Maybe our 11-2 record was not indicative of our roster makeup. He says, I'm thinking Michigan State's going to be a better team than last year and go 9-3 in the regular season with a bowl win, giving us a 10-3 record and still on track for championships in the future. How off am I in your opinion? Thanks, Jim. That's from Mike in West Palm Beach, Florida. I don't see anything wrong with your thesis. What you're saying in some way is that top to bottom Michigan State might be better this year and not have as good of a record. I think that's possible, and I think that that's probably true everywhere except tailback. And tailback is such an important position. Now, the offensive line last year, we might, by the time we get midway through the fall, this fall, we might look back and say, well, I wish we had last year's offensive line. Not that last year's offensive line was great, but they were functional, and they peaked in the Michigan game. And then that's when, then they lost Horst, then they had to move our Curry, then they moved Jarvis out, and that changed an offensive line that was really coming of age. So, I think what you're saying is I don't disagree. This is from Juan in Mexico. He says, can you explain how many transfers we can bring in versus the number of outgoing? I know it's not 1-for-1. Well, it can be 1-for-1 if you're under 85. You have to be under 85 scholarships, and your number of initials, well, you can have 25 plus 7 for 32 total in a year, something like that. I should know that, but I don't know specifically. But good question. Appreciate that from Mexico. Randy from beautiful downtown Manitou Beach, Manitou Islands up there on the coast of Lake Michigan, which is still number 2 in our Great Lakes Power Poll, behind Lake Huron. Lake Huron, 121 consecutive weeks at number 1 in our Great Lakes Power Poll. Lake Huron, strong. Strong enough, we probably need a long-distance dedication. Anyway, Randy from beautiful downtown Manitou Beach says, is it possible that Darius Snow is not a starter in the fall? Go green, he says. Possible? I guess it's possible, but I think he's one of the top 11 players, and he's getting better. So I think he fits in somewhere there at linebacker. Cal Halliday is solid, but I think Darius Snow, I don't know. It's a good problem to have. Halliday's good, but do some of the other guys have a higher ceiling to aspire to? I think it's possible. Mike from Macomb, Michigan says, hi, Jim. Thanks for all you do with SpartanMag. Any rumblings on who and when Izzo will find a replacement for Dwayne Stevens on the Michigan State basketball staff? Who and when? All quiet on the Izzo front right now. Haven't heard a thing. I mean, initially we talked about I think Lindsey Hunter interviewed for a job there. And he became head coach at Mississippi Valley State and was just fired this year. Lavelle Jordan just fired at Butler, is a guy that's had a good relationship with Izzo over the years, even though he's a former Michigan assistant, an Iowa assistant, and head coach at Milwaukee and Butler. Those are guys, but I don't know if that's what Izzo's looking for. I think Izzo would like to go young. I think he'd like to get somebody that can help develop big men. I don't know if Lavelle Jordan and Lindsey Hunter are in that category. So I haven't heard a thing. That's from Mike from Clarkston. And that one's been kind of peculiar. They got to get on the road here pretty soon for recruiting, and they're going to want to be full blast. Tony from Northville says, we already did that one. Matt from Rochester, Michigan says he's got a question about the name, image, and likeness collective. He says, are you familiar with the concept of an NIL collective? I've heard about several of them affiliated with different programs. What are they exactly, and are there plans for Michigan State to organize one? Michigan State is being I think they are well organized and ambitious with their name, image, and likeness program. As far as a collective goes, I think that's where something like a news group or a website like SpartanMag or other things could put together money and sponsor an NIL. And a subscriber came to me with that idea, and it's pinned on the board, and I've got it. It's nothing I would arrange. It's just something that we would house for the members that want to do it. It's nothing I would promote because I don't want to be part of the news that way. But if the members want to do it, we've got a community and we can do something like that. I think that's part of what you're talking about. That's just one example of a collective. And I think that's going to become commonplace, not just at sites like this, but, there will be things that Michigan State fans or Rutgers fans can donate to that becomes part of a name, image, and likeness sponsorship, I think. It's a new frontier. It's a changing landscape. And whatever rules they try to put on those things, people are just going to break them. Spartan Fan 81 from Orange County. We talked about that one already. L.O. Spartan says, any specifics or further details on the Spartan Stadium renovations? Would love to know more. I don't know anything about Spartan Stadium renovations. Now, the football building is undergoing renovations that are going to be starting, and that's going to revamp everything and help recruiting. And I'm not sure when that's going to be done. Hayden Roberts from Wyoming, Michigan says, When should we see some announcements of the silent commitments? How many are there? Any big names? You know, we talked earlier about some of the guys that have been talked about on some of the message boards as possible silent commitments, and I think some of them might remain silent. So, and they're silent for a reason because they don't want to come out with it yet. But in terms of what I'm anticipating, if I wanted to say anyone was on commitment watch, put it that way, I'd keep an eye on Jalen Thompson, the defensive end from Detroit Cass Tech, 4-star, 6'4", 245. Let me see where he's ranked these days. Number 179 in the country, number 3 in the state. I'd keep an eye on him. I'd keep an eye. We talked about Elliott Washington earlier. I don't know if that one, you know, I don't know if any social media, I just committed things are going to be going out from him. There's going to be a lot more work to do there. I'd keep an eye on Jordan Hall, 6'3", 228. Linebacker from Bradenton IMG, number 189 in the country. You know, Michigan State, Florida, North Carolina are in there. Auburn, Penn State, South Carolina. He visited Michigan State this past weekend. He really likes it. He likes Mel Tucker, all of it. I'd keep an eye on him. There's some scuttlebutt about Jacob Oden, 2024. One of the top 2024s in the state of Michigan from Harper Woods. Number 117 in the country, high 4-star. There was some talk that he had a really great visit. Something might be happening with him. But he posted on social media today saying he's not ready for a decision. So I think he might have been in that silent commitment rumor pool, but he came out and says he's not ready to make a decision. So I don't know if of those 4, maybe 1 or 2, something might happen, but not all 4 anytime in the near future. Mike from Valparaiso, Indiana says, to the degree you can speak about it, what happened with Quavaris Crouch? Sounds like he's not here any longer. He did some good things, has a lot of tools, and I would have expected him to continue to working on those and moving forward. Surprised he would transfer twice in 2 years. You know, what word do you want to, accountability in some ways. Just not quite in line. It's more than that, but you hear some things, but I'm not going to throw things out there without proof and so forth. So when they went after Brule and Windman, I think the writing was on the wall there at that point. Ronnie from Grosse Ile, Michigan says, Jim, what are your thoughts regarding our recruiting strategy from 4-hour radius and developing 2- and 3-star recruits to a strategy of putting extreme effort into 4- and 5-star recruits? I know it's like playing the lottery. You can't win if you don't buy a ticket, but your odds are so low, it might be better to put the ticket money into a mutual fund. Talk about lotteries now. He says, so if we miss on the big guns, do we then snipe from mid-level schools? Yeah, if they're going after the big 4 and 5 stars, and if they miss on those, then you circle back and go after the 3 stars. What you're saying is Michigan State in the past has gotten the 2s and the 3s and maybe tried to take a stab at some 4s here and there. Had some success doing it that way when they were great with evaluation and great with player development. Hard to do those things. It's also hard to recruit 4 and 5 stars. Mel Tucker, a different energy level in recruiting than Mark D'Antonio. D'Antonio would be the first to admit that. A different level of pull. So they're going out further from the radius initially, and they're drawing more attention initially, nationally. Florida, Texas, California. Does not guarantee you're going to have better teams. Mark D'Antonio had some really great teams. It's going to be hard to compare to him. Tucker's, he's ambitious. He wants to do better. Not better than D'Antonio. He wants to do better than everybody. He's going, this is his shot at it. He wants to be a big-time coach. Thinks he can do it at Michigan State. And he thinks he's got the ability to sell and the magnetism to go nationally and get some 5 stars and 4 stars. Now, remember, there's only about 25 5 stars a year in the Rivals.com rankings. There's not many of them. So, and hey, Tucker had a real good rapport with Dante Moore out of King, and I thought that he was going to become his first 5 star. But then they got Edmondson, and that thing changed around. So, I've got a lot of respect for what Michigan State's doing recruiting right now. I'm like, wow. They said they were going to go for it, and they're going for it. They've mapped it out. They had a big season last year, and they're utilizing that. They got some facility upgrades coming. They're going to utilize that. And they're going to do more and more to even sharpen the recruiting, the visit experience, which is going to continue to help. So they've got some recruiting power right now. Michigan State has not always had the recruiting horsepower to set out to do those things. But they do right now. They got a slick look and some strong salesmen that are also producing good football teams last year. So, worth a shot, man. Worth a shot. And it's intriguing to watch. It's an interesting time to be a Michigan State fan. Coming off some great years with D'Antonio, did some great things for the program. The brand looks good. The baton's been handed to Mel Tucker. He's doing it differently. Some things staying similar. But, Michigan State, I use the term again, it's got some horsepower. It's got some shine to it. So people are intrigued. John from Grosse Pointe says, Jim, I would expect Horst, Samac, and Duplain to return to play a little better than last year based on strength, experience, and coaching. I would also expect Green to enter and play about as well as Matt Allen. Talking about Brian Green, the transfer from Washington State. He said, then the wild card is Spencer Brown and the right guard. Could right guard be played by Carrick or whoever does not win the center position, being Samac or Green? Would those be reasonable expectations? And if yes, does that offensive line project to be successful in the Big Ten? Great, well-stated, well-thought-out question, John from Grosse Pointe. Thank you. And I agree with you. Whoever does not win the center position, I think will start at guard, whether it's Green or Samac. But if Carrick is healthy and coming back, he's at least going to be a good backup. And I think Carrick's coming back wanting to start, and he's going to have a shot at it. So they've got some interior. When it's all said and done, I think they'll have some interior depth in there. And now Dallas Fincher had a good spring. He's in that mix too. So if those guys all come together and they're all healthy, yes, I think they would have a successful offensive line in the Big Ten. Successful being your word. That's if Spencer Brown, Horst, those are some question marks. B. Flo from Brooklyn here. I don't know if he means Brooklyn, Michigan or Brooklyn, New York. He says, is the football staff monitoring any transfer portal offensive tackles at the moment? Question is, and the answer is yes. And he also asks about Xavier Booker's visit. We're looking into it. WX Spartan 23 from Parts Unknown says, hey, Jim, how should we feel about the basketball program right now? We will always be competitive with Tom Izzo, and I'm by no means saying I would want anyone else, but it just feels uneasy the last two seasons, and now Sissoko is our only center. Fair point. You're assuming that those rumors are true. We talked about it earlier in the show with Marble. I don't know for sure. CPTN Sparty says the rumor is that one of our front court players is going to the portal. Have you heard this? Any idea who? We talked about it, class of 2006. He's from Flyover State by way of East Lansing. He says Marble is transferring, rumor. And we're just talking about the rumors here. It's a live show. We don't know. Looked into it. We don't know. But it is a little bit of a potential crisis. I don't know for sure. Haven't heard anything, any confirmation, but some pretty good sources say there's something to it. Sparty says, hey, Jim, do you think Trace Jackson Davis is coming? He seems like an ideal fit, especially if rumors of a potential front court player entering the portal are true. Who is in the Comparoni Power Index of top portal players for basketball? Trace Jackson Davis, I mean, he's testing the NBA waters. He's still in Indiana. I know there was a lot of talk about him possibly coming to Michigan State. I've heard some of that talk too, but I'm not giving it much of a chance at all until and unless you see him in the portal, which I don't think is going to happen. I could end up being wrong, but I'm not giving much thought to it. I mean, you can dream about it, and you can hear things that he talks to people and he's interested in it, but that's a big departure from actually doing it. As far as what's going on in the portal, for basketball players, if I go by like I think CBS had a list of the top 25 guys in the portal. And if you're looking for big men, there's 6 guys that are out there, but this is what you get. The number 1 big man, the number 7 player overall is Manny Bates, 6'11" from North Carolina State. He was out for the year this year. Played like 1 game. Last year, in 2021, he led the ACC in blocked shots. Averaged 9.6 rebounds. Not exactly Alonzo Mourning. You know what I'm saying? I know he's a young guy, but Michigan State's not involved with him. There was some talk about Michigan State possibly getting involved with Fardaz Amack from Utah Valley, averaged 19 points, 13 rebounds at the low major level. Physical, energetic, but he's looking at Gonzaga, Iowa, Washington, Texas, Texas Tech. Michigan State never really got in on him. Number 3 big man in the ranking that I saw today, KJ Williams from Murray State, 6'10", averaged 18 and 8. 35% from 3. Matt McMahon was the coach at Murray State. He's the new coach at LSU. There's 1 or 2 players from Murray State that have gone with him to LSU. LSU has no scholarship players. So KJ Williams, there's thoughts that he might end up with his old coach at LSU. Michigan State not involved. Number 4 big man in the portal, Johnny Broom from Morehead State. 16 points per game, 10 rebounds. He's looking at Kentucky, Duke, Gonzaga, Louisville, Florida, Houston, Auburn, Memphis. Some big shooters there. Could Michigan State have gotten in there? I don't know. What kind of personality is he? I have no idea. Morehead State? Don't know. And the next 2 big men are the 2 guys that used to play for Maryland. The Mitchell brothers, Mikel and Mackay. They both went to Rhode Island. Mikel averaged 11 and 6 this year. Mackay averaged 10 and 7. Both of those guys are going to Arkansas. So, are those guys difference makers? Let's look at last year's big man portal. And this might not be, I might cite this a few times and you guys might get sick of me talking about this. But my point is there's not a lot of great players in there. It's not like, hey, we need a big man. Let's go to the portal and get Alonzo Mourning. 3rd time I've used Alonzo Mourning. I'm dating myself a little bit. Who's a good center lately? I don't know. Let's go to the portal and get someone like Coburn. Yeah, there's a lot of those people walking around, right? All right, last year in the portal, Josh Carlton was a surprise going from UConn and made an impact at Houston. That was a surprise. Houston did a really good job evaluating and get that guy. Maybe they got lucky with him. He had an impact. He was solid. The best center in the portal last year was Walker Kessler, going from North Carolina to Auburn, 7'2". Very good shot blocker. Had an impact at Auburn. They spent a little time at number 1 in the country. They really fizzled down the stretch, ended up underachieving. Is there a Walker Kessler out there this year? Not that I'm aware of. All right. The second-ranked big man at this time last year in the portal was Wahab, the guy from Georgetown, 6'11". He went to Maryland. At Georgetown, he averaged 12 and 8, 12 points, 8 rebounds. Goes to Maryland, didn't do much. You saw him this year. Wahab, is that how you say it? He averaged 7 points and 4 rebounds at Maryland. That was the number 2 big man in the portal last year. You saw him for Maryland this year. Was he a difference maker? That's what's out there, people. The number 3 big man in the portal last year was Trey Mitchell. He's a stretch 6'9" from UMass. He went to Texas. At UMass, he averaged 18 points and 6 rebounds. He went to Texas. He averaged 8 and 4 for a Texas team that was supposed to be good because of all the portal players they had. And Beard was in there. He was going to change the world. They were kind of average. They didn't do much. They fizzled. Trey Mitchell averaged 8 and 4. He was the number 3 big man in the portal last year. This is what's out there, people. These are not difference makers. The number 4 big man in the portal last year was Garrison Brooks. He went from North Carolina to Mississippi State. He averaged 10 and 7 at North Carolina. He averaged 10 and 6 at Mississippi State. Mississippi State went nowhere. This is what's out there. Does that sound like a difference maker? Does that sound like a program changer? When you go to the portal right now and you think, let's say theoretically, if Julius Marble is gone, you just think, well, we'll just go get someone better in the portal. There might be 4 or 5 guys better than him in the portal. And maybe only 1 or 2 that are like markedly better. I think if Julius Marble played 23 minutes a game at Michigan State, I think he would average like 10 and 7 and be functional plus. People were ripping on his defense on the message board. I think his defense is fine. He's not great on defense. He's not as bad as people were saying. The number 5 big man in the portal last year was Liam Robbins. Liam Robbins. Remember that guy? He played at Drake, and then he transferred to the Gophers, played for the Gophers, not this year, but last year, and he had an impact. He's pretty solid. Helped Minnesota beat Michigan State last year. For Minnesota last year, Liam Robbins averaged 11-6. Seemed like he was better against Michigan State. He averaged 11-6. Before he played at Vanderbilt, he was at Drake. He averaged 14-7 in Drake, 11-6 at Minnesota. Transferred to Vanderbilt, got injured. He was averaging 6.3 rebounds. He was the number 5 big man in the portal last year. You might remember Liam Robbins. Remember him? Is he better than Julius Marble? He was the number 5 big man in the portal last year. The reason I'm talking about last year, because I'm just trying to go apples to apples here a little bit. This is what's in the portal at the big man position. If you're a good big man, 6'9" or whatever, you're probably going to the NBA, even though low post big man doesn't exist anymore. Or you're not transferring. But if you are transferring, maybe you're trying to move up in class, like the guy at Utah Valley, or Liam Robbins when he was at Drake. But there's not now there was one great one out there. I'm getting to him right now. Oscar Tshiebwe, who ended up being the Wooden Award National Player of the Year. Kentucky, great job evaluating to get that guy. Somehow, some way, he was ranked the number 6 big man in the country in the portal this time last year. They got that one wrong. He averaged 8-7 at West Virginia. How he goes to Kentucky and averages 17-15 is one of the biggest curiosities in recent college basketball history. That's the most improved player I've ever seen in college basketball. To become National Player of the Year out of nowhere. So Oscar Tshiebwe was a great sleeper at number 6. The number 7 big man in the portal last year was Dawson Garcia, 6'11", kind of a stretch big from Marquette. Went from Marquette to North Carolina. At Marquette, Dawson Garcia averaged 13.6 rebounds. Went to North Carolina, averaged 9 and 5. Started 12 games. North Carolina, very good team, went to the national title game, had some problems during the season, but Dawson Garcia went from being a starter at Marquette to like a support player. So good out of North Carolina. They went and got the Manic kid, and he's a stretch 4. I don't include him in this list because he's not a big man. This is like a Julius Marble type replacement theory that I'm talking about here. Garcia, number 7 big man in the portal, didn't start for North Carolina. Good team, probably has a good future, I don't know. But immediate impact, not so much. 9 and 5, he's okay. He's okay, right? Number 8 big man in the portal last year, Dylan Disu. 6'9", transferred from Vanderbilt to Texas. One of those guys who's going to help save Texas. He averaged 15 and 9 at Vanderbilt. He only played 17 games, cut short by injury. Maybe the injury continued to bother him. But this year, Dylan only averaged 3 points, 2 rebounds at Texas with no starts. That was the number 8 big man in the portal. Number 8. Number 9 big man, and this is as far as I'm going to go. Number 9 big man in the portal last year was Miles Johnson. Do you remember him at Rutgers? 6'10". He was kind of like, he's big, a little bit Pillsbury Doughboy to him a little bit. Went to UCLA, and at UCLA this year he averaged 3 points, 5 rebounds. Coming off the bench. The number 9 big man in the portal last year. Oscar Tshiebwe was awesome. Everybody knows that. The rest of these guys, would any of them make much of a difference? Anywhere. They didn't last year. That's what's in the portal. So if you're thinking, hey, we need a center, we'll just go in the portal and get one. It doesn't exist. There's a few. I just talked about some of the guys that are out there, but not many. I hate to rain on people's parade, just trying to put a little, make things realistic. Brad Fichenko points out that Boakye was a bust at Arizona State this year. Remember when Boakye was committed to Michigan State? And that was like big news because he's ranked high. He went to Arizona State and he played like a freshman, 6'10", top 50 player plays like. That's what they look like. They look like Madison Sissoko and Boakye. Sometimes they develop. And people that are expecting Jackson Kohler to come in and be the savior, he's going to be a freshman. And he's got skill and he's got some abilities. He's rugged in some ways, but he's going to need time. And to think he's going to come in and know what they need to do with ball screen defense and everything, it's going to take time. He would be well served to be able to come in and be a second string guy and play behind a Marble or a Bingham if that can happen. So anyway, people are going to be sick of hearing me say that, but that's the reality. That's the reality. It's a tough market out there. What I'm going to do is all right, well, I'll get those. I'm going to try to get those green and white game scrimmage highlights tagged with players, so you know a better chance to know who they are. And I cut it. I think we watched about 2/3 of it here today. We'll watch a little bit more of it next week. What are we talking about here? Gary Lewis says new running back Broussard is excellent, but not Kenneth Walker level. I would agree. Brad Fashenko says minutes pulled out today. Oh, talking about Mims, the offensive lineman from Georgia. He's back at Georgia. Talking about portal. Gary Lewis says, you're right, Boakye did not live up to the hype he received. It's not Boakye's fault. Boakye is just everything. Boakye is who he is, and he's trying to be as good as he can be. The blame is in the people that put the hype on him. I've been talking about for 20 years. That's what highly ranked big guys look like. They almost always have a long, long way to go. Marcus Bingham was a top 50 national guy. Came to Michigan State with a long way to go. There's a small handful of guys that are plug and play. The guy at Michigan, Austin, what's his name? Excellent college basketball player, right from the shoot. Good one. Not many guys like that. Dog Kenneth says the Eddie Pleasant film is worth the price of admission. Appreciate that. Of course, the price of admission was $0, so I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. But I think it's a compliment. Thank you. Gary Lewis says Pleasant has the frame and smooth lateral movement and back pedal. You're right about this quick back pedal. He's smooth on that. And he comes out of his break on the W quickly. Quick in a phone booth. Built, strong. We talked about him earlier. Hip turn, offhand jam. He's been coached some sophisticated stuff. I just want to see, if he's got that top end drag race speed. And if he does, looks pretty good. Gary Lewis says, thank you for this content. Outstanding. Thank you, Gary. Gordon Tenoda says, Pleasant sounds like a well-spoken young man. Mike Anderson says, on Marble rumors, do you think this might be related to MSU losing DJ? Who was his coach? We don't know if the rumors are, we've heard it from some good sources, so I'm not going to speculate on that. Gary Lewis says, Faye or Kim for now. Hauser needs time to season. I don't disagree with that. Gary Lewis says, Dante Moore, ND lean. I think that's true. And he's been enjoying the coaching change at Notre Dame. And even 15 months ago, when I was talking to some Detroit King people asking about Dante Moore, that was before Michigan State's great season, they told me that Dante was looking for a Notre Dame offer. That's 15 months ago. The offer came, and I think there's some interest in I think Notre Dame is a factor there. Everybody knows that. Gary Lewis says, I heard Jim asking questions of Tucker at the presser. Yes, you did. That was me. Thanks for listening. Fist bumps to you. Ben Golf 9 says, wow, that's disappointing that we had a good shot with Moore and took a commitment from a 3-star. Well, stars aren't everything. And I know Dante Moore. I love Dante Moore. I've not really looked at Bo Edmondson a lot. But, yeah, I appreciate that Bo Edmondson wants to be a Spartan. He was here. He loved it. And what you have to look at is Michigan State's coaches. And Jay Johnson, I'm impressed with him, too. If they've evaluated it and they think that bird in the hand's worth two in the bush, that, 4-star, that just because a website has somebody as a 4-star doesn't mean he's better than a 3-star. Michigan State could have taken the Yates kid out of Texas, a 4-star. They took the 3-star Pleasant out of Florida. You going to tell them they were wrong? I looked at the film. I don't think they're wrong. Moore is special. And Michigan State wants to continue to recruit him. Is that possible? That would take a tremendous magic trick to pull that off. It's interesting. It's an interesting decision. Kenneth Roberts says, Comp, what are you drinking? I'm drinking Jägermeister in East Lansing. Good for you, Kenneth Roberts. I'm drinking water. Brought to you by the largest source of fresh water on planet Earth. The Great Lakes Basin. That's good water. Tell you what, I was down in Florida a couple weeks ago. Not so good water. I don't want to get into all that because you can talk about other things, but I kind of, not so good. Of course, it's not snowing there either. I love Michigan weather 10 months out of the year. March and April are the 2 worst months of the year. I like May, love June, love July, love August, love September. I love October. I love November. I love December, as it should. It should be a little nippy on Thanksgiving. You should have a little snowfall at Christmas. I love January and February. I like the ponds to freeze. I like to go out there and skate. I like skating on a frozen pond more than I like going to the beach in the summer, and that's the truth. I like cross-country skiing. I like January. I like February. I wouldn't want to live anywhere where it didn't snow and ponds didn't freeze. I might change my mind when I'm 65, 70 years old. I don't know. But right now, I like that. I like May through February, the way it is. It needs to be cold if you're going to a hockey game. If you're walking through the parking lot to a hockey game, if you're walking through the pine forest between Dem Hall and Munn Arena, through the pines there, it needs to be snowing. It needs to be cold if you're going to a hockey game. That's the way it should be in February and January. That's the way it is in Michigan, and I like it. I don't expect everybody to like it. I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion. I'm just saying 10 months out of the year, I would not trade Michigan weather for anywhere. Because not everywhere do ponds freeze at 4 inches of thickness of ice so you can get out there and skate. Follow? March and April are the problem, though. Because you can't skate, you can't ski. You can't even ride your bike right now. You can't even practice baseball. So March and April, those 2 months, not so good. The rest of it, beautiful. But if you get one of those freak years where it's warm in April, then it's wonderful. But this year, the April weather has been the worst in a long time. And as baseball coaches, we've had more indoor practices this year than I've ever seen. And it's on my nerves a little bit. Gary Lewis. But the other 10 months, wouldn't trade him. Gary Lewis says, I like Brule and Windman. 21 UNLV, college football, didn't win, but were scrappy and defense played hard. Good point. Gary Lewis brings some information here. Oh, Mike Anderson. I missed Mike Anderson. Thank you, Mike Anderson, for your support. SpartanMag. Live is your personal tip jar sponsorship for the proceeding tonight. And he's got a pair of character doing a classic mic drop. Appreciate that, Mike Anderson. Thank you. Gary Lewis says, 22 Sparty needs offensive linemen. Wonder if one quarterback will transfer out after May. We don't know. That's the way things are these days. Not Bobby Lane. Great. Thank you, Gary. It's got to be a night game. That Western game on Friday, September 2nd, it's got to be a night game. All right, then we get into the baseball talk and the softball talk. Gordon Tonona says, I have Bobby Lane's autograph and the Detroit Lions 1957 world champion, the Duke football. Wow. Nice. Aaron May says, Mr. Bowman, I didn't want to say that, but it must be. I'm not going to repeat that one. Okay, Gordon. Interesting. Aaron May's still talking amongst yourselves. Old Tuck checking in from Ludington by way of Austin. I assume he's in Austin, but he's saying Ludington tonight. I don't know what that means. He says, is it a benefit to target transfers from a stability standpoint because they are less likely to transfer a second time? It's good theory, but also anyone who's transferring, it remains to be seen over the long term. If you have too many of those guys in your program, the book is still being written on how great that is. I know Arkansas basketball did well with a lot of transfers this year. But you know who did not do well with a lot of transfers this year in basketball? Oregon, Florida, NIT. Aaron Mays, more talk here. Old Tuck says, is Max Christie claiming that Izzo got into his headspace, causing him to have too many 2-for-9 shooting nights? Old Tuck with some pointed commentary. I think we're about done for the evening. I appreciate Appreciate all of that. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Brooklyn, New York for B-Flow. Thank you. I didn't know if it was Brooklyn, New York or Brooklyn, Michigan. There's a Brooklyn, Michigan over there by Michigan International Speedway. Chris Foulin says, with Carr and Barker coming in, is it possibly we could see some double tight end sets? Both are great athletes and could be a lethal combination. Yeah, I think you'll see some double tight end combinations, sets and formations. They did that at Colorado. They would have liked to have done it at Michigan State over the years. They've not had great depth at tight end, but you've seen some two tight end formations at Michigan State in the past 2 years. And yeah, I think Barker is an impact guy coming in from Illinois. He's going to help. And Carr has to improve his blocking. Tyler Hunt's been functional. I think the nickel kid from Georgia has looked good this spring, right on schedule, maybe even ahead of schedule. Tight end all of a sudden is starting to fill up. Not really fill up, but it's better than it was when Cam Allen and Trenton Gillison were the backups. And those guys, I mean, they tried hard. They're decent athletes, just didn't quite fit. Tight end is changing there. Now, Carr's got to show he can block. If he can block and stay on the field in passing situations and run situations, that will help his ability to stretch the seam. Because then play action is working better, and you can get guys lean in and get by him. Can be a weapon. They're working on it. They're excited about him. A lot of posts today. Appreciate it. Had to go all the way through them. And that'll do it. Hey, man, great show tonight. Appreciate the calls. What do we have? One call. We had two calls. We had 3 calls, but I could only field one of them. Next time we'll open that up and maybe take some more. But appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate all the personal sponsorships. I'm going to shout out those guys one more time. James Bannon says, I enjoyed our short talk at the press box on Saturday. I agree, James. It was great meeting you, and appreciate you coming up and saying hello, and appreciate the support you've given to Spartan Mag and SpartanMag.com over the years for sure. Thank you, James Bannon. Take care of that car. Who did we have again? Mike Anderson, thank you for your support. And remember, next time, if you guys do have a personal tip jar, personal sponsorship, tag a question onto that, and we'll be happy to try to get to that question right away if I see it. Sometimes I've got Mr. Magoo vision, so you know how it is. The other one, Jim Reynolds, thank you for your support. And Mr. Page from Surrender Dorothy, Friday the 2nd is a no-go for me. We'll see you next time. Spartan Mag Live, thanks for checking in. We'll see you next time. Have a great week. Take care.